Well, good morning, everybody. Shortly, a customer will be arriving. We're going to be doing a special unveiling of a 1922 Singer 66 1. And I think that might be Chris right there. Let me double check this message here. Okay, he's on a call right now. He'll be wrapping it up shortly and then heading this way. And Chris is a local man. I've been in Oconto about 4 years, met him quite some time ago, and he approached me about this machine that had been in his family quite some time. And this machine belonged to his grandmother and was also used by his mom as well. Hey, by the way, give me some feedback. I made some other adjustments on my my new webcam. How is the audio quality right now? Can you guys hear me okay? How is the audio quality? The video quality on the laptop looks pretty good. Good morning to Christine and to Paula. Good morning, ladies. Great to have you here. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Yeah, what I found is my laptop obviously comes with a camera and a built-in microphone as well. And I think that the two microphones, the one built in the laptop and then the microphone on this Razer Pro webcam, they were competing and getting into conflict with each other. Oh, good morning to... Oh, okay. I said good morning to everybody. I thought I'd missed somebody. Oh, good morning to Osman as well. Good morning, Osman. Welcome from the great country of Turkey. Great to have you here. And it looks like right now we only, let's see, we've got about 10 folks that have already joined us, which is great. And we have one of our moderators with us, one of our leadership team, Paula. So if I get engrossed in something and I get distracted, don't be afraid to reach out to Paula. She's very knowledgeable and a great resource. So bounce questions off of her if you can't get my attention. Good morning to Aaron as well. Okay, less muffled. So it sounds different. Sounds different. If you have, during the live stream, if you have any trouble hearing me, please let me know that. I can see on the laptop straight away that the video for this new camera is quite good. It's quite good, isn't it? So we'll kind of see how things go, and hopefully we have less problems. It's very frustrating when you're trying to hear what someone is saying and it's coming through muffled. So hopefully it does better today for us. So let's do a little bit of, while we're waiting for Chris to arrive. Chris, again, is the owner of this machine. He is the son of the mother that had this machine last, and then the grandmother that had it before. And the cool thing about this machine is, I always say it's great. It's great. Good morning to Emma as well. And Emma, I don't want to share any dark secrets about Emma, but Emma has been on a little bit of a trip out to her roots. Those of you that don't know it, Emma is originally a New Yorker. She's originally from Brooklyn, New York, just like Bill O'Rourke from Kissimmee, Florida. These two folks, and I'm sure others as well, are originally from New York and specifically Brooklyn. And Emma had the opportunity to travel out there and to kind of revisit her roots a little bit, which is kind of cool. Isn't it fun to go back to a place that you used to live and just to see how it's changed and to certainly connect with family and friends as well? So welcome back from New York, Emma. Great to have you here. So what I was going to touch on is it's great when we know the provenance of a machine. And the provenance means that we can trace that machine back to the person that bought it brand new. Now, the cool thing about this 66-1 that we're going to be looking at today is this was given by Chris's grandfather to his grandmother as a Christmas present right around 1923. And there's a handwritten note. I don't know if I'll be able to find it on my phone or not, but there's a handwritten note where the grandfather had written a simple little note to his beloved wife, happy Christmas, basically enjoy this wonderful machine. And Chris shared that with me, and I thought, how cool is that? It was the original note. It's in a plastic bag, and it just right away grounds you back to the significance of sewing machines, and how what a lasting gift they can be when we give them in love to someone that we care about, either a family member or a friend or otherwise. So, yeah. My friend from Turkey, Osman, is saying, cool trinkets. I'm going to raise it up a little bit. You can see some of our other friends behind there. I found this little cutout here. It almost looks like a special premiere where you walked on the red carpet, right? You walked on the red carpet, and it's a big event. And that's kind of what I like to signal to folks when we're doing live streams like this and we're introducing a machine that's gone through a significant transformation. And we'll look at some of those pictures to see where it kind of started and then where it is now. But I like to show that backdrop when I can. And then some of our other friends back here, way to the left. Oh, it's left on the screen. It's right on when I turn the camera. Way over there, you can see way in the corner next to that dress holder or whatever that thing would be called. You've got the Singer repairman, you've got his alligator, you've got the captain, I always talk about us being, sometimes a teacher, always a student. So we have our student over there with their graduation garb on as if they've been in our classroom and now they're graduating. Of course, we never graduate as students, do we? We always continue to learn and learn more. And then let's see who else we have. I pointed out the captain already. And we've got this gentleman over here. I don't know that we ever gave him a name. This gentleman here, and our gal from Switzerland. I think I sometimes place her in Switzerland, and I sometimes place her in Sweden as well. So we've got to decide where she's from, but she's lovely, isn't she? And then we've got the doctor and his wife just behind our Canadian Mountie. I don't know if you can see his wife or not. And we've got our Canadian Mountie as well for those Singer sewing machines that came out of Canada. And let's see who else we have. We've got this little gal right here, which I think we placed her in Finland or something like that. She's from Finland. Dr. Singer, of course, doesn't need an introduction. Umi and her friend. I don't know that we ever gave her friend a name either. But all kinds of fun stuff. And while we're waiting for Chris to arrive, I'm going to grab this little placard over here. And this happens to be Donna Reed. Donna Reed had a career that spanned about 40 films over 40 years. She was a supporting actress as Lorene Burke in From Here to Eternity. And she also was in, and she's well known for this, she was in the classic, iconic movie, It's a Wonderful Life. I'll show you a picture of her. Now, the significance of showing you this little capture of Donna Reed, and many of you probably know a lot more about her than I do. You might be able to see in the picture as this thing is reflecting a lot, she's sitting by a sewing machine. And I've got a number of famous people, Hollywood star type people, that are sitting by sewing machines or are sitting as if they're sewing with sewing machines. Everyone from Lucille Ball to even The Rock. If you've never seen him behind an industrial machine before, I'll see if I'm able to reach over the top and show you him as well. So there we got Dwayne, The Rock, in a lot of pictures that we would expect to see him in, where he's showing his muscles and everything. But then also on the bottom, we've got him sitting behind a Juki sewing machine. If you didn't know that The Rock had actually used a sewing machine, now you do. And there he is sitting behind a Juki sewing machine, stitching off a few stitches, etc. And I've got pictures of former Bill Clinton's wife, Hillary Clinton, and a number of others as well, sitting by sewing machines. Why am I sharing this with you? It's just a random share, right? No, it's not. I'm sharing this with you because we are right on the fringe. I've been talking with Emma and Paula and some of the other leaders about how close we are to our next major milestone. Our next major milestone of 13,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, Cow Country YouTube channel. And when it comes to hitting milestones, I'm always a little bit cautious. So I told Paula yesterday through a chat, I said, we've officially hit 13,000, but I'm going to wait a little bit because we have the numbers that kind of fluctuate up and down a little bit. We'll be at a number and then it'll drop 2 and then it'll go up 4 and then it'll drop 3 and then it'll go up 6. So I'm going to wait a little bit, but the next major contest, as most of you know, especially if you follow me on Facebook, is going to be centered on the opportunity to win a fully restored featherweight. I'm going to be giving away a featherweight as the grand prize. And this featherweight is going to be, it's going to be museum quality for sure, but I'm still debating, and I might leave it up to the grand prize winner, but I'm still debating if I'm going to be a purist and keep it in its traditional blue. I always say black blue because if you didn't know it, Singer did not use just black paint on their sewing machines. They had a very, very proprietary mixture. And I know what the recipe is, by the way, because I used a special spectrometer to get the recipe. So when I do touch up on machines in the workshop, I'm using the same paint that Singer used back in their factories back in the day. And it's a combination of black and blue. So I'm debating. Oops. Hold on a second. Hello, this is Scott. Oh, don't you hate that? I'm waiting for confirmation from Chris that he arrived and it's another spam call. I think I click block on my phone more than probably anything. So what I was beginning to share with you is I think I might leave it up to the grand prize winner of this contest as to whether or not they want to be a purist and go with a traditional blue, or if they want to have more of a custom color on the featherweight. And I'll give them some options once I get into communication with that grand prize winner. Oh, Chris is here. Hey, y'all bear with me for a second as I go up and bring Chris into the workshop, and then we'll keep on marching forward. You can hear Hank barking in the background. All right, bear with me for a second, you guys. I got to go let Chris in. Grab one of the railings just in case. Okay, so the owner is here, Chris. I just went up to let him into the workshop. What I was beginning to say is when we hit the when we hit the grand prize winner and the judges and myself select them, it's then going to be up to them, I think. I'll leave it up to them as far as whether or not they want to be a purist with the featherweight I'm giving away and go with a traditional black, or if they want to go with more of a custom color. And I won't have unlimited custom colors that I'll offer to them, but some of the popular colors is kind of the bright greens and the candy apple reds and some of the other cool colors that a lot of featherweight owners tend to lean towards. So I'll probably do that, and it'll add a little bit of an extra personal touch to that grand prize winner as they wrap up the contest. But the reason I showed you the picture of the rock, I showed you also a picture of what is her name? Donna Reed. The reason I showed you the picture of these celebrities buy sewing machines. And again, I've got one of Hillary Clinton. I've got one of just a ton of different folks. Is this next contest we're doing when we hit 13,000 is going to be centered on you building a celebrity team. You'll be able to pick the celebrity of your choice. I'll show all of them. And you can pick, let me go and shut off this music for just a second. You'll be able to pick your 2 celebrity members, and contestants that are in this contest can pick the celebrity more than once. In other words, if you're in the contest and you're going to be writing a creative piece about the project that you're working on with these celebrities, more than one person can pick The Rock if they want him on their team. More than one person can pick Hillary Clinton or one of the other folks that I have shots of by sewing machines. Or what is the name of the gal that played in Wizard of Oz? You remember her name, Chris?
I don't.
Does anyone remember the name of the gal that played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz? I've got a picture of her by a sewing machine too. But the funny thing is she's sitting on the wrong side of it. She's sitting on the wrong side of the sewing machine. So, but at any rate, I'll have probably, Judy Garland. Exactly, Paula. Thank you, dear. So you'll be able to pick your own celebrity team. And then between those 2 celebrities, thank you, Christine. Appreciate it. Yeah, Judy Garland. Yeah, I guess she wasn't the original. Oops. Hey guys, we've got one of these hackers that's popped in again. Could one of you go after them? Girls 18, blah, blah, blah. This hasn't happened for a very long time. But if one of the leaders would go ahead and throw this knucklehead into a timeout, and then I'll work on, like I did with the other person that did it several months ago, I'll go ahead and block them. But yeah, lower your hammer on this dum-dum that's trying to interrupt our live stream. But you'll be able to pick 2 celebrities to go on your team, and then the 3 of you will come up with a creative project, and you'll be able to talk about that. Maybe talk about how you met the celebrity, and this could be fact and fiction. Okay, you can talk about how you met them, the relationship you have with them, the friendship that you've made with this individual, and then you'll be able to kind of tell your tale of how you met them. Maybe you even got them interested in sewing, and now they're sewing with you on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever. And then you kind of talk about the project that you're working on, kind of build a story, and I'll flesh that out more. I'll give more details of that once we officially announce the contest on Facebook, etc. But it'll be a real fun contest, I think. I'm trying to give it a little bit of a different twist as you're actually working with celebrities now. And many celebrities do sewing. As you know, it's been a number of years ago now, but I actually prepared a machine for a family member of Tom Hanks, which is kind of cool. So a lot of them do get involved with that. It's relaxing. It's a breakaway from the chaos of Hollywood and all that. Okay, so that I just wanted to touch on that real quick. So let me back the camera out real quick and introduce Chris. And I hope he's not camera shy. I don't think he is. He's an executive with a transport company and everything, so he's used to talking to people and big shots and all that. And I'm just going to introduce him and invite him, if he would. I'm going to cut his head off there. He's such a tall guy. Look at him.
Morning, everybody.
So this is Chris. And Chris is, I'd like to say that he's local, but he's really all over the board because he has company stuff going on all over the country. And he snuck this in after just getting off of a phone call. And I hope I'm not sharing any dark corporate secrets. He was on the phone call with a large corporation that starts with E. And if he wants to share who that is, he can. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave it like that. But he was on a phone call with them, and he's getting ready to launch now in all different directions because of his business. But Chris, talk a little bit about this machine that we're going to unveil today and actually stitch on. Talk a little bit about the history and the significance of it to your family, if you wouldn't mind.
So, Scott, the sewing machine's been in my family for as long as I could ever remember. It was my grandmother's. My grandmother was a seamstress, and my mother was she sewed a lot of clothes. She was a school teacher for 32 years.
Oh, wow.
But she made costumes, and I remember, her putting together costumes for, church plays and for the kids at school and school plays. And so this Singer sewing machine, which I believe you've identified as a 1922.
Correct.
Is it a 60?
66-1.
A 66-1 has been sitting in my mother's house since my grandmother passed away. And that would be quite some time ago. Grandma passed in 1980.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
The sewing machine's been in the house, and it was always loved and cherished. And unfortunately, we lost Mom last November, so about a year ago. And during the process of going through stuff, I kind of looked at the machine and like, okay, what am I going to do with a 100-year-old Singer sewing machine? I'm a lot more of I move stuff around the country for a living or around the world than I am a sewer, but clearly a family heirloom, and appeared to be in very good condition. So I brought the machine, or asked Scott to take a look at the serial number, and he expressed an interest in restoring the machine. And I actually think, Scott, it was in very good condition to begin with, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say overall it had a lot of varnishing built up on it. It had some rust as I dug into the machine, but the overall patina of the machine, it was kind of flat looking, and that's what we dealt with in the paint shop. But the overall paint patina, the decal quality and everything was amazing. Other than on the very front of the bed, where you'll see that there was a degrading of the decals, just for sake of love of the machine and use of the machine. All the other decals are in wonderful shape. And Chris and I talked about this a lot. I explained that I do full decal restores and everything, but we both agreed that the story and the history of this machine and the love of the use of it is really reflected in that wear spot on the front. And so I ended up, doing my conditioning process on the paint, ended up re-clear coating the entire machine and returning the beauty and the luster of it. And then I'll show you some pictures as well. I'll put them on Facebook as well, hand polishing all the different chromium pieces on the machine as well, and just getting her spiffed up and running smoothly again. And we're actually going to sew with her today. And the significance of the timing of this is, and I'll kind of turn the camera on myself, give Chris a break here. The significance of the timing of this is this machine was born on October 31st, 1922, which means technically, as of today, she's not an antique. But on the 31st of this month, in only about less than a week, on Monday, she's going to become a centennial machine. She's going to become a century old. And so as Chris and I were talking about this, I said, how appropriate is it that, and the timing of things, how things just work out perfectly. How appropriate is it that you chose to do this at this time and the restoration was completed in time, in a sense, to have a birthday party for this cherished machine that's been in your family so long and celebrate 100 years. It's really cool. And I'm going to invite Chris as well, just briefly, to share about how this machine entered the family, how it was gifted, because you shared a note with me, a handwritten note, and I thought it was so cool.
So, Mom grew up in the generation of the Great Depression, and she didn't bring in a lot of extra stuff, but she was very keen on keeping anything that was good, and also anything that was of significance. And what I found as I went through things, I actually found the card where my grandfather wrote the note to my grandmother, and it was addressed to her in her maiden name. So it was before they were married.
Oh, before. Okay. Okay.
When he gifted her the sewing machine for Christmas. And so that card is, I didn't bring it with me, Scott. I should have.
That's okay. I've got a picture of it.
The card was, Mom had it lovingly put in a Ziploc bag along with the original owner's manual of the machine, and several of the accessories and heads and bobbins and that were all there with it. So it was kind of neat to tie that piece of history together. And as I looked at the machine, and I have several cousins that are female cousins. None of them really sew anymore. And so as I thought about what to do with this, we also have my great grandmother's dining room table, which sat in the farmhouse. It would have been, I've had it estimated, it's late 1800s, early 1900s.
Oh, wow.
And you've seen it, Scott, where the table's in the dining room. And now I have the base for the sewing machine underneath the window next to it. And that's where this is going to go for the time being. I had actually thought about potentially gifting it to a museum, because we kind of have the not the pedigree, but the
provenance,
the provenance of the machine.
Yeah.
Someplace where it could be seen and enjoyed, because it sat upstairs in Mom's bedroom lovingly, because she adored her mother, and the fact that she was a seamstress and passed that on. But it sat up there, and I just thought the machine really was so beautiful that it needed to go someplace where people could enjoy it. And so for now, it's going to sit in the family dining room, along with great grandmother's table and a few other things, and people are going to enjoy it for a bit. So I'm excited to get an opportunity to see what it looks like now that you've got it done.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's do this. I'm going to spin the camera around and kind of adjust it a little bit over here. Oops, you can see that we're getting a sneak peek of the faceplate, and the faceplate did not look like that when this 1922 machine, I'll kind of slide it over that way, they were being more discreet, did not look like this when she came to the workshop. I actually have a couple of pictures I'll share with you, and I also want to be sensitive to Chris's schedule as well, because he's got a lot of business going on right now, and he's got to get back for an important call by right around 10 o'clock Central Time. So I'm going to go through these real rapidly. But what I'm showing you on here is this combination of rust and varnishing on these, just caked on. This, if you don't know what this is actually part of the upper tension unit. So really, really essential to maintaining proper stitch quality and everything. I'll just go through these real quick. There's our rear cover for the plate. A lot of you will call these things some of the jewelry on the machine. Part of our bobbin winding system. You can just see, beautiful machine, but again, the machine over time, it just collects a lot of dirt, a lot of varnishing and gook on it. That's our stop action, our clutch on the side. You can just see she's in a real rough state, isn't she? Part of our bobbin winding system as well. There's our lock right there for the clutch. And I'll just go through these fairly rapidly so you can see them. And you can see these on Facebook as well. But I always say it's not just a matter of the machine is dirty. This hinders the machine. It holds the machine back from being able to perform properly. There's our faceplate right there. And you can see a lot of varnishing, a lot of grunge on it. And that's really a spectacular showpiece of the machine, isn't it? There you can see a close-up of it there. I take a lot of, there's a random one. You can see I take a lot of pictures because I really want to document the transformation. Look at all that gook in there and all the little nooks and crannies in the faceplate. And there she is starting to come to life. Look at that beauty. Isn't that lovely? Whoops. Okay, I won't do any more right now because we're really tight on time, but I'll post the links of this also in the description for this live stream. So after the live stream, if you want to look at these pictures in detail, you'll see the links in there. Just click them. You can look at hundreds of photos that I took of Chris's machine and the transformation that we took it through. So without any further ado, and I don't want to disconnect my camera either, I'm going to go ahead and let Chris kind of carefully lift that up.
Oh, wow. That is beyond beautiful. Absolutely amazing.
You can see Reggie White is there from the Packers trying to protect it. But you look at the luster on the bed and everything. This is a keepsake that Chris and his family, knowing the history of it, going all the way back to grandmother. And I misspoke before Chris arrived. I thought that it had been given to his grandmother when his grandmother and grandfather were already married. This was gifted to her as they were moving through the courtship process and looking at becoming man and wife. And that makes it even more significant, because back in that time frame, like Chris said, post-depression and all of the stuff that was going on, those were tough times. And this would have been a major investment. And so obviously Chris's grandfather, saw the writing on the wall. This is going to be my mate for life, and I'm going to invest in this even before we become husband and wife. So, but let me move our little sewing machine to the side here. I'll move Reggie out of the way as well. And
Scott, that's just beautiful. You want me to hold the camera?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so this is a 1922, and let me ask all of you in the chat right now, do you know what year? Because the 66-1, the significant thing about this model, it was the very first Class 66 machine that Singer introduced. It was specifically made to be a treadle machine. And you can see when Chris and I met, this was the original belt that he had. And then I got a replacement belt that we're going to install in so that the machine is all ready to go once it gets back into the treadle table. But this was designed never with the idea of putting a motor on it. Some people do that eventually. They do add a motor because on the right side of the pillar, some of the very early Singer machines did not even have a threaded point where you could screw a bolt in to mount a motor. The 66-1, this one from 1922, has a threaded point over here. So technically there could be a motor added to this, but that was never the intent with this model. Real tough question for all of you. What year was the Class 66 first introduced? Does anyone know? What year was it first introduced? I'll give you a few seconds to decide that as we're moving towards actually sewing with this great machine. Let's see. So Emma typed 1902. 1902. You're really close, Emma. You're very, very close. 1906 is Christine's guess. 1906. You're getting a little bit further away. The Class 66-1. What is this? 1907, Paula said. The Class 66-1 was first introduced in 1900. 1900. And it probably had one of the longest runs of any sewing machine that Singer ever did. It ran for 35 years in production. 35 years. From 1900 until 1935. In 1935, Singer introduced a new machine. And it took the place, or kind of took over, when the 66 went out of production. Does anyone know what machine that is? What machine took over or continued the legacy of this great full-size machine right around 1935? Does anyone know that answer? 1935, there was a new class machine introduced by Singer. Give you a big hint. I refer to it as the Rolls-Royce of Singer sewing machines because from 1948 until around 1952, it was used by Rolls-Royce to sew the interior leather panels of their luxury cars. What model am I talking about, you guys? This model that I'm talking about took over for the Class 66 after being in production for 201-2 is correct. Yeah. The 201-2. So the 66 comes out right around 1900. It's in production for 35 years, approximately. And then it's replaced by the 201-2. And 2 years prior to that, there was another machine introduced just 2 years prior in right around 1933 that preceded the 201-2, taking over the legacy of the Class 66. Does anyone know what model that was in 1933? So 2 years before the 201-2 took over the legacy of the incredible Class 66, like Chris's machine, there was another machine introduced. I'll give you a big hint. I oftentimes refer to this other machine that was introduced in 1933 as the little brother to the 201-2. Anyone know? The little brother. I'm giving you guys a lot of questions. I know that this early in the morning. So, and if any of you are on the West Coast, it's very early for you. It's probably only a little bit after 7 o'clock right now. Not the 99. No, that's a great guess, Paula. Very good guess. It was actually the 15-91. The 15-91, which I call the little brother of the 201-2. Both of those machines were equipped with a brand new innovation called the potted motor, which gave that machine direct drive. In other words, on the balance wheel, there were gears, and then inside, the worm gear that comes off of the tower of the motor interlaced together, and there's no belt needed on those 201s, on the 201s or the 1591. So that was really a huge innovation. And then they carried that through with their slant-o-matic machines as well, continuing with that tower motor design where a belt was not needed. So that's kind of cool as well. So at any rate, one last question, and then we're going to sit down to this machine, and actually I'm going to be hand turning it. And Chris is so gracious to hold the camera for me, and he can move in and out and get closer to the stitching or whatever he wants to do. He's the boss. He's the owner. So, but the other question I'll ask you real quick, does anyone know, we're talking about this being the 66-1, the inception of the Class 66 family. And it's so unique. If Chris kind of moves over a little bit with the camera, you'll see that instead of the presser foot attaching on the left side like it typically does, it attaches to the rear. And if you ever see a Class 66 and it's attached like this, you immediately know that it is a Class 66-1, the very first in the family of 66 models. That's the only model that Singer made for the Class 66s that attach like that. Very, very unique. And that's the same machine that Bill O'Rourke has down in Kissimmee, Florida. And all of you know Bill. He worked with the Muppets and did all kinds of fun things during his career. But the question I had is, how many different subclasses did they make within the Class 66 family? We know that Chris's machine, that's been a legacy in his family, is a -1. How many other models did they make? How many other models did they make that were in that Class 66 family? Does anyone want to venture a guess? Just throw a number into the chat. 3, 4, 10, 20? What do you guys think? You can move it, Chris, wherever you want. I just wanted to show that yours is so unique as far as that presser foot attachment.
And I just have to add, Scott, I'm sitting here and I remember seeing this machine in the sewing room on the farm at my grandparents, and that room was absolutely off limits to the grandchildren. But to see it sitting here today and the work that you've done on it is just, I mean, it's kind of choking me up a little bit, because I remember it when grandmother would routinely use it. And but that room was just off limits. Nobody could, that treadle, you always wanted to go put your foot on that treadle.
Sure.
And it was made very clear that we weren't going to do that. And it's always been a respect. But to see it today, the way you have it cleaned up is just amazing. I mean, I'm going to have to be careful here. I'm going to get a tear in my eye.
Well, I appreciate that. And that is the beauty of taking something and restoring it to greatness, isn't it? Chris, hopefully you could hear what he said. It's emotional for him as he remembers the memories of this machine and the fact that it was off limits. Kind of like we joke about in a lot of the clips in that we talk about sewing scissors. And if a husband or a kid or someone like that grabs your sewing shears, it's like a death warrant. These are off limits. No one uses this to cut anything but cloth. And Chris is reflecting back to when this was at Grandma's house on the farm, and this was off limits. Kids were not going to get near it. No one was going to mess with it. So real quick, and I see that Paula and Emma and Christine typed in some great guesses on the number of subclasses within the Class 66 family. I'm going to read them off, and then I want one of you to add them up as I'm reading them off, and then tell me how many subclasses there were, and I'll tell you exactly what the subclasses were. So the first, again, at the very beginning was this model right here, the 66-1. We then had the 66-3, and that was a hand crank version of this. Then the 66-4, which was motorized. And then we had the 66-5, the 66-6, the 66-8, the 66-14, the 66-15, the 66-16, the 66-18, and finally the 66-24. So if one of you mathematicians wants to total those up that I just rattled off, again, a -24, a -18, a -16, a -15, a -14, a -8, a -6, a -5, a -4, a -3, and then the original is the -1. The original is the -1. So we have a differing of opinion here. We've got Christine saying 11, and we've got Paula saying 10. So I'm going to read them off again. The -1, the -3, the -4, the -5, the -6, the -8, the -14, the -15, the -16, the -18, and the -24. And if you want to be a real stickler, and I know a lot of people follow me over in the UK as well, they're going to say, hold on, buddy, hold on. Wasn't there a 66K also? Yes, there was. And I didn't mention that when I read down this list, but there was a 66K as well. So if we add the K in, and I'll actually show you my little sheet here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then if we add the -K that came over from the UK, we have what? We've got 12, don't we? Did I count it right? The -K is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it gives you an idea of, again, this machine was in production for 35 years, from 1900 until around 1935 when the 201-2 took over for it. And that's a long legacy of different subclasses that they would make little subtle changes to. They might have a different stitch length controller, or they might have some other subtle changes to the machine, but all in all, it was the same core machine. And a quick little walk around, and Chris is welcome to get closer with the camera if he wants. This little doodad right here is actually our stitch length control. And when I have it turned all the way clockwise, I'm screwing it all the way in. It's as far in as it'll go. When I turn it all the way clockwise, that's going to give us the longest stitch possible, right around 6 stitches per inch. So if we want a real long stitch, we're going to crank this all the way in clockwise. If we want a short stitch, if we want to get down into the satin range, really tiny little stitches, almost all the way down to 30 stitches per inch, 30 stitches in an inch. Then we turn this counterclockwise like this, and it will have a stop point eventually. I'm still going. I'm still going. I'm still going. I'm still going. Still going. Right there. So I turned it around. I don't even know how many times, maybe 10, almost 10 times. Let me silence my phone real quick. I turned it almost 10 times to get down into that super tiny range. And there we go. So just keep that in mind. That's your stitch length control. Some of the other later 66 models that we just rattled off, they went from this to a lever, like you would see traditionally on a lot of the machines. So I'm going to screw that all the way back in, because a lot of the stitching we're going to be doing today is going to be the longer stitching. I love the look of longer stitches, especially when we're sewing some of the leather. This is our bobbin winding assembly. You notice like on some of the singers, they'll have a spool pin down here near the serial plate. There's no spool pin. So when you're setting this up to wind a bobbin, you go from the top to here to this little thread guide. Just turn your camera a little bit. Perfect, Chris. Thank you. From here to this thread guide, you then come across the front of the machine. And right here on this little point right here, there's a little indentation. You bring the thread through that little indentation, and then you come up through this little goalpost area I talked here, right through that little fork right there. And then you have your bobbin on here, and you kind of give it a couple of wraps, and then you engage it by just pushing this in. You notice this dropped in right here. So now if we were to turn this, I won't turn it much because we're threaded up, but this little bobbin winding tire is then going to turn, and this little fork will go back and forth, distributing the thread evenly on the bobbin right on here. And then eventually it will either auto engage or you can disengage it, and then it's no longer making contact with this balance wheel. And the last thing, and most of you know this that are regular sewers, I showed you that little clutch on the end. You don't have to go all the way over, Chris. It might be too far. Here, I can actually trade it off for you. Just remember as well, when you get over to here and you're going to wind a bobbin, you'll hold onto this, and then you'll turn this towards you to disengage the clutch. That way only the balance wheel is turning. The needle isn't turning any longer. Thanks, Chris. So that's just a little tip on that. The threading is real simple. You come off the top, you go through this thread guide right here. Always make sure your presser foot lever on the back is pushed up. See how it's in the up position right now? That way there's no pressure on these discs. You draw that thread through the discs, and then you have to kind of come over the top of this check spring. See that little check spring right there? You come underneath this thread guide right here, this little thread guide here, and you'll notice that that actually moves up and down. See that? As you're raising and lowering the presser foot lever. Do not thread it through that little hole. I've had some people that have contacted me and said, my thread keeps breaking. What am I doing wrong? And I look at their setup, and when they, instead of coming underneath this thread guide and then coming up to the take-up arm, they threaded it through that hole. It creates extra drag, and it actually cuts the thread. So don't go through that little hole. And then when you come up to here, you go from right to left through the take-up arm. You then come down through the thread guide on that beautiful ornamental faceplate. And then you come down here. There's another thread guide right here, right above the needle. You kind of come from right to left. And then you thread this machine from left to right. And we talk about the flat side of the needle all the time. The flat side of the needle, when you look at a needle, it's going to have a flat side. The flat side on this 66-1 goes to the right towards the pillar. As you slide it into that little slot, the flat side will go to the right. But I mean, that's the setup. And then we kind of open this up. We'll look in there. It's a convenient drop-in bobbin. And then also if it needed to be ejected, you just push this little button right here. And notice I won't actually eject it, but if you push it, it raises that bobbin up and down so you can grab it out of there more easily. Now, as this bobbin is turning during the sewing process, just so you know which way to put it in, when you put it in, the thread is going to be coming over the top. So as it's turning over the top, which way is this bobbin going to be turning? Clockwise or counterclockwise? You kind of thread it through that little tensioner right there, and then as it's turning, which way do you think this bobbin is going to be turning? I'll give you a big hint, and Chris is going to hold the camera so you can see. I'll pull the thread a little bit. Which way is it turning? See it? Counterclockwise, right? So just make sure when you drop it in that it's turning counterclockwise so that you're set up properly. Okay? I'll close that little door again. And the setup that you see right now is kind of a makeshift setup. This is a base. This Chris's machine is not mounted in here. It's resting in there on the different support points. And we do that because the Class 66 machines, when they're sitting and they're not in a base or not in a treadle table, they sit cockeyed. So it would be nearly impossible for us to use the machine unless it were set up like this today. Okay, so that's enough blah, blah, blahing, isn't it? These are some of the stitch offs that I did off camera to get ready for this live stream today. I'll just show this to you. This is saddle grade leather. You'll notice at the top of this column, it has a U. At this column over here, it has an L. And the reason I wanted to show the distinction is The U stands for a universal needle, which means it's a needle that's been designed to handle a wide variety of different sew-offs. The design of the needle itself, the shaft, the scarf, the point, and everything else is designed whether you want to sew cotton or whether you want to sew leather. It can get the job done, but it doesn't do the job quite as well as a leather needle when you're sewing leather. If you compare the stitching on the left side, these two columns, and then you compare it to the stitching on the right side with these two columns, where I'm using a Schmetz size 9014 leather needle. Both of these are 9014s as far as the size of the needle. This is a universal needle on the left side. On the right side, I've got a leather needle. You can immediately see that the caliber and the quality of the stitching is improved when we use a leather needle on leather. And so while universal needles are fabulous, you only need one needle to pretty much get any job done. If you're going to be sewing a lot of leather, consider investing in leather needles, and you'll be able to raise the caliber of that stitching, both for the top stitch and also for the lock stitch as well. And if I kind of turn it towards the camera, you can see that this saddle grade leather that Chris's machine sewed, and I turned it by hand, is probably about 3 to 4 ounces of leather. It's not quite a man or a woman's thick belt, but it's pretty doggone close. And so if anyone's ever told you that a treadle machine is not capable of doing heavy duty sewing, they couldn't be any more wrong. When you sit down to a treadle machine and it's set up and it's been set up properly like Chris's machine, you can out-sew most of the motorized machines easily. As you're pedaling that, it's just amazing the strength of that machine. Just amazing. Okay, blah, blah, blah. You guys know me. I also goofed around with a little bit of canvas as well and was just kind of, you can see kind of where I started as I was calibrating the balance and the stitching. We had a little bit of weird stuff going on, and then slowly I zeroed in on it and got it balanced. And sometimes when you're dealing with a machine, you can make most of the adjustments up here. If the bottom stitching like this is looking loosey-goosey, you turn this clockwise to increase the pressure, because again, this little unit up here pulls up to define the bottom stitching. Whereas this down here actually pulls down to define the top stitching. This down here, I showed you inside of there, the bobbin case pulls down, this pulls up. They're in a constant tug of war like this. And so if you get something like this going on with your stitching where it's real loose on the bottom, usually you can correct it by just turning this up clockwise. Sometimes you can't. And then you have to go into here, and there's a tiny little screw that faces out to the left here. There's a tiny little screw. You've got to turn that counterclockwise in tiny little increments, less than a millimeter. And you turn it in tiny little increments to the left to try to take away some of the pull down factor of that bobbin case. In other words, usually if this is deficient down here and loose, this is going to be overly tight on the top. So we take away some of the power from this to give more power back to here. Otherwise, we've got to turn this thing way up, way too far. What we do is we take some of the power away from here, we give some of the power back to there. Hopefully that makes sense. If that explanation of managing tension makes sense, would you be so kind as to give a thumbs up or a smiley face in the live chat, just so I know that I'm communicating clearly. Also, thank you to the moderating team for dealing with our smut person that was trying to promote some sort of sexual stuff on our channel. By throwing that person in the timeout, I can see that they backed away for now. So that's a good thing.
Scott, I have a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for my grandmother, who used this machine probably, on a weekly basis, if not daily.
Sure.
How much adjustment would she have had to have done to, what you're talking about with the tension and the bobbin up top, or would she have had this pretty well dialed in that she wouldn't have had to have adjusted too much?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you're going through the sew-offs that I have set up for us today, and we may not be able to do all of these. That's my sew-off sandwich that I have prepared. And if Chris has, again, an important call he has to take around 10 o'clock Central Time, that's about 25 minutes from now. So if we want to continue the live stream as Chris steps away so he can get to his call in time, we'll do that, and we'll try to go through as many of these as possible. But when you're dealing with a machine like this, the adjustments usually, once you get it dialed in on a particular material, it's going to be pretty solid. There might be a little bit of a variance, but it's not going to be dramatic. So when Chris's grandmother was doing the sewing on the farm with this machine, she probably was sewing a more limited scope of materials, not quite as expansive as ours here. Here we've got protected full grain leather, we've got saddle grade leather, we've got elk hide, we've got snake skin, we've got compressed felt, we've got kind of a satin material, we've got commercial upholstery material, we've got bubblegum material, as I call it, we've got denim, we've got acrylic fiber used for awnings, and then finally on the bottom, we've got a canvas material. In all likelihood, when Chris's mom was sewing on the farm, she probably was sewing a lot of denim. She was probably sewing a lot of cotton.
Grandma made a lot of dresses.
She made a lot of dresses as well.
And a lot of dresses that I don't know if it would have been cotton or wool, but the number of patterns that my mother has saved.
Okay.
And there's boxes and boxes of them.
Oh, wow.
So I think Grandma made a lot of dresses for the ladies in the community. And
she was a seamstress, so that makes
yes.
sense. So Grandma would have, I'm not a seamstress. Some of you might be more in the seamstress realm, but seamstresses, I'm sure, also work with a fairly wide scope of materials. And there may not have been as many needle selections back in the early 1920s, even going into the 1930s. So there would have been some sort of a standardized type needle that Grandma would have been using. And she might have had to make some subtle adjustments to the upper tension as she was going through different dressmaking that she made, depending on the material she was working with. But once the tension is dialed in, generally, and I'm real persnickety about stitch quality, so I really, really try to fine tune that puppy depending on what sew off we're doing. But depending on the materials Grandma was using, once she got that sweet balance between the upper tension pulling up, the bobbin case pulling down, and getting that tug of war so that they were friends. I joke about that. They're friends now. They're not fighting each other anymore. Once they got that friendship factor, and Grandma, as an experienced seamstress, would have known exactly what to do, she probably would have only had to make very subtle adjustments occasionally. Hopefully that answers your question, Chris.
I was just curious.
Yeah. So why don't we start with this? Why don't we start with sewing some saddle grade leather? I'll start with a single layer, which again is about 3 to 4 ounces. And again, I'm going to be the treadle today. We get this set up. We kind of line it up on the material. And I'm going to lower that presser foot now. And again, if you're dealing with a thicker material like leather, up here is the presser foot lever control as far as the pressure going down. When you turn this clockwise and it screws down, you're going to be increasing more and more pressure. So for the dressmaking that Grandma would have done on this, she probably wouldn't have had this turned down quite as far as I do, because when you're sewing some of the lighter materials, you don't want as much pressure as that material is feeding underneath the presser foot and over the feed dogs. For leather sewing, you have to bump it up a little bit. So I've got it bumped up a little bit right now. So I'm going to go ahead and launch into this. Notice that the balance wheel is turning towards me as I turn it, and we'll get going so you can actually see the first sew off. Listen to that machine. You could sew a lot faster with a treadle attached.
It's impressive. Going through that thickness of material and the stitch quality that you can see coming out on the back end.
Yeah, let's actually look at that. So this again is saddle grade leather. And what Chris is showing you right now through the camera is, I talk about my little thing of describing a near perfect stitch, what a lot of people would consider to be a perfect stitch. I call it page 34. This is page 34 stitching right here. Let me actually draw it out. When you draw it out, it's really easy to pull. You just kind of pull it out like this, and then I'll go ahead and clip the threads, and then just draw it back between underneath the presser foot again. I'm going to clip these threads as well, and then we'll take a look at this stitching that we just did through this saddle grade leather. Again, this is not a light leather. This is used to make gun holsters. It's used for all kinds of heavy grade type applications. Folks, that is gorgeous stitching right there. I hope you can see that in the shot. Yeah, you can. I'm looking at the laptop right now. Chris is holding the camera steady and true, and it's beautiful, beautiful stitching. Now, what are we going to see on the other side? I talk about it all the time, is that needle is passing through this thick leather, it's trying to pull that thread back through this thick layer. A lock stitch on the other side is always going to be trickier for a machine to complete than the top stitch. And yet, as we look at it, I'll do my best to kind of pull it back. Folks, that is gorgeous, gorgeous lock stitching right there as well. Just gorgeous quality. See, I'm pulling it back. You can see that stitch popping out at us. And again, this, you look at it from the side, about 3 to 4 ounces of leather. And Chris's machine did it like it was sewing a light cotton material and laying down stitching that's absolutely brag-worthy. Now, how far should we push a treadle machine with Scott turning the balance wheel? I did not test this off camera, so I might be setting myself up for failure, as I oftentimes do. I know that when this is mounted in Chris's treadle machine table, that it'll be able to sew off the chart, sew off the chart. Dare I put a second layer with Chris's machine, taking us up to this thickness right here?
Almost belt thickness.
About belt thickness. Absolutely right, Chris. And again, when a hide like this is cut, look at it from the side, you'll see that the thickness varies just slightly. It varies just slightly. But we're talking probably about 6 to 8 ounces of leather. Almost like Chris said, almost belt thickness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these back to back. And again, I didn't test this off camera, so hopefully I didn't bite off more than I can chew, as I oftentimes do. I've got so much confidence once the machine has gone through the process. The other thing I'm going to do, since we're doing 2 layers of this thick saddle grade leather, again, almost belt thickness, is I'm going to go up top here real quick, and I'm going to give this about a turn and a half. Again, this is going to push down harder because we're feeding 2 layers of saddle grade leather now. We're not feeding 1. So I'm going to go 1, almost 2. I would say that probably is 2. And again, if we went from leather all of a sudden to making a dress, as Chris's grandmother would have done so often, we're going to back off that presser foot pressure on top. We're going to take down some of that pressure. Now, what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to grab one of Paula's clips back here, 2 of her clips actually. You guys know I don't sew straight. So I'm going to clip this on the side and see if we can sew a little bit straighter, hopefully. And again, I did not test this, so hopefully we have success. I think we will. But again, I didn't test this, so we'll see what happens. I just need to make sure that that presser foot is going to clear. Put it real close on the edge there. Okay, I'll take this real slow. So let's give us a go. Again, as Chris can show in the camera, my hand is the only thing powering this machine right now. So imagine if this were set up with this new treadle belt, you would be able to just do crazy things with this machine. So I'm going to give this a go. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. Keep your fingers crossed. Take it slow, because I don't know if I'm going to clear this little clip right there. Yeah, it looks like we will. Actually touching it, see that? As that needle bar comes down and kind of touches it, doesn't it? Let me take that off. Now I'm hitting a thicker part of the hide right now. I can feel that as I'm turning it. That needle is hitting that leather and going, are you out of your mind? Are you absolutely out of your mind, my friend? And some of you are probably chanting in the back, faster, faster, faster. All right, let me stop right there, take this clip off. Almost there, almost there. We would have been done like 45 minutes ago if this were set up in a treadle table, but it's just me, folks. It's just me. And there I hit the edge. If you look real close, right now I'm going through a single layer of saddle grade leather. Oh my gosh, you can feel the difference when you're turning it. It's so much easier, isn't it? All right, so let me raise that presser foot. How did we do? Oh my gosh. Folks, we just went through 2 layers of saddle grade leather, turning it by hand, and the stitching is just as spectacular. I'm going to move my hand out of the way and let Chris show that. This is the row on the left that we just did. This is the first row over here that we did. Folks, those are page 34 stitches. And I would say near perfect because I think you can always make things better. If you start to think that you've reached, the ultimate and you can't get any better, that's dangerous territory no matter what you're doing in life. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Wow. So this again is our top stitch. The row we just did through 2 layers is on the left there. Wow. Amazing stitching. We'll turn it over, look at that lock stitch. Here's our benefit. As we're looking at that lock stitch now we don't have to deal with the grain of that leather. I put them back to back. So now you can see that lock stitch perfectly. And you can see, even as we went through 2 layers of saddle grade leather, the tension factor was balanced beautifully as we went through it. We still have a page 34 lock stitch. Could it be improved? Yeah, I could probably improve it a little bit, but it's pretty spectacular. It's pretty doggone spectacular. I'll turn it like that as well. Go ahead, Chris.
So what's really neat is that's probably the first time that this machine has stitched 2 pieces of fabric together in, I would say, 20 years.
Wow.
Maybe 25. And Scott, I really appreciate you getting her back into the shape she's in. But to me, that's just it's super neat that, Grandma used to make a living or help, contribute to the family's living.
Sure.
Using this machine, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And here we sit today, and it's, producing just an absolute beautiful stitch. Can I have that piece? Because I'm
gonna send all these with you.
This is gonna be it.
Yeah.
Scott, I was gonna tell you, you have some more material there that you want to go to with the rest of your group.
Yeah.
If you want to, I'll just take off and go take care of my calls, my business.
Absolutely.
You can finish your live stream.
Yeah.
And then we can get together later today. You can bring it over. We'll put it in the treadle and get her set up and everything. But wow, I'm just in awe, to see Grandma's machine that way, and it's going to sit in the dining room, and people are going to get to enjoy it. After seeing the quality of this stitch, I might have to actually sit down and see if I can put 2 things together.
Absolutely.
Now, you guys should be chuckling fairly loud at that, but you just never know. I might have to give it a whirl.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us for the live stream. I know how busy your life is right now. I'm going to angle the camera down, y'all, so we can admire Grandma's machine. I'm going to walk out with Chris real quick. If the moderators would just kind of manage things, and then I'll come back, and then we'll do some of these additional stitch offs right here on Chris's machine as well. Everything, again, from protected full grain leather, elk hides, snake skin, and all the other doodads.
And I'm pretty sure Grandma never sewed anything together with snakes.
We'll be sewing snakeskin for the first time with Grandma's machine as well then. That's awesome. Let me put on some music for you guys, and I'll be back in just a few moments. Once I can see the screen, there we go.
Scott, I gotta take a quick picture of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so tickled that we did this.
Yeah, move anything out of the way there. Absolutely. Even this too, if you want. We get a shot of the faceplate kind of down across the machine too. That's really cool when you get the faceplate as well, because it's such a big part of the jewelry of the machine.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Well,
I kind of decided it's going to sit in the dining room for a while.
Well, we've got to get a cake pulled together too for Monday when she turns officially 100 years old.
Yeah, we should.
All right, hey guys, I'll be right back. Moderators, take care of everything. I'm going to walk out with Chris. I'll be right back.
I hope I did okay.
Oh, you did beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks everybody. I am back. Well, it's really neat, isn't it? I don't always have, because a lot of the, yeah, I don't always have the opportunity, because a lot of the machines that I work with are shipped to the workshop from all around the country and even around the world. So I sometimes will do a restorative project for a customer, and I'll never have the privilege of actually meeting them face to face. And with Chris being able to, out of his very busy schedule, being able to come to the workshop and actually share this live stream with us, it adds a totally different dynamic. And again, I remember a couple people posted a couple of times. They said what they love about this channel as well is that there are a number of men that will step forward and say, yeah, I do all kinds of sewing. I'm cool with that. If The Rock can sit behind a sewing machine, I'm just as much of a man if I sit behind a sewing machine as well. And so for men to start to take an interest in sewing and getting excited, and right now the numbers on this channel is we have a higher percentage of men that follow my work than women right now. So you ladies have to step it up a little bit to get your numbers up higher. I think right now it's like 61% men, and the rest is ladies that follow my work on this channel. And that might be because I'm a guy, that's why they're following it. But I love to see men getting involved in an industry where traditionally women were predominantly the ones that did it. Like Chris was talking about his grandmother being a professional seamstress, to augment their budget on the farm, and then his mother taking over and starting to use this machine as well. But his emotional response was really cool. You couldn't see him. He was almost tearing up as he remembered back to this machine, being back on the farm with grandma and seeing the greatness come back to it. So if you've got an older machine and you're saying, I just don't know if there's possibilities for that machine, there's always possibilities with workshop magic. Okay. All right. So blah, blah, blah. There we go. But she is spectacular, isn't she? And again, she has a birthday this Monday. This Monday, she's going to be turning 100 years old. 100 years old this Monday for this machine. So never doubt the possibilities of what can be done with a sewing machine that you have. If it's a legacy piece in your family, and you want to have it as an heirloom to enjoy for generations, consider investing and bringing that machine or shipping that machine to the workshop. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Let me do this. Let me go ahead and invite you to chime in on what other materials you might want us to try to sew. And it looks like we've been running about an hour and 15 minutes now, almost. And I want you to chime in on what you think. Oh, and welcome to, is that Yali? Welcome to Yali. I'm sure you've already been greeted. Welcome to Yali and Mermaider. Mermaider, that's cool. That's fun. Mermaider. Yeah, nice. It's fun to have new people join us and become part of our family, isn't it? I think it's fabulous. I love when people join us and become part of our family. Okay, so what I was going to say with all my blah, blah, blahing is these are the potential sew-offs that we can do. Let me invite you to chime in and to share. And I've got a little bit of music playing softly in the background. Let me know if that disrupts my audio quality. If it does, I'll shut it off. But with this adjustment I made on the computer, maybe it'll balance the music in the background and my voice at the same time. Hopefully it does. So what I have left for us to potentially sew off during this live stream is we've already done saddle grade leather. I've got protected full grain leather. And again, protected full grain leather is a very heavy grade of leather. and it's got a coating on it that they put to protect it from being stained, and also to give it a little bit more fortification. Then I've got elk hide, and you can see that's a very thick piece of elk hide, probably about the thickness of a belt. So we've got elk hide as well that we could potentially sew. Then I've got snake skin. This is kind of a mix of snake skin, and it's got a kind of a vinyl leather background to it almost. But I haven't sewed snake skin in a real long time. I don't know how the machine will handle it. Maybe it'll do well, maybe it won't. And then I've got some of this compressed felt. Again, this is not felt like you would have used back in school. This is heat treated, and what it does is it kind of fuses the fibers of the felt together and makes it very, 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 very stiff and very, very difficult to pierce through. So I've got some of this compressed felt, and I've got some of this real light. It's almost like a satin type material. I don't know that we've actually sewed this before, but as we're getting closer to the holidays, it's kind of a holiday color, isn't it? So I've got that as a possibility. Then I've got some of this commercial upholstery material. You just look at this stuff and you can tell that this is really going to be a booger to get through. Some of this commercial upholstery material, some of this bubblegum material. And if you're saying, why do you call it bubblegum material? Well, because it's got a lot of vinyl in it and it's real stretchy. Look at that stuff. You're like, wow, 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 wow. So yeah, with a lot of vinyl, this is real tricky stuff to sew as well, but I always like to put it out when I can. Then we've got some good old-fashioned heavy grade denim, and we'll probably do multiple layers of this, somewhere between 4 to 6 layers, heavy grade denim. Then I've got some of this acrylic fiber. Acrylic fiber, again, is used in making awnings, and you know awnings are exposed to high heat, cold temperatures, high winds. They're stretched over frames usually, and yet this acrylic fiber continues to be able to stand up against all that abuse. So you know right away sewing through this stuff is like sewing through patio blocks. So we also have this acrylic fiber. We can sew through 1 or 2 layers of this as well. And then last but certainly not least, we've got some U.S. Army grade canvas. U.S. Army grade canvas. And I'll probably fold this in half or something like that, and we'll potentially stitch down 2 layers of it. So those are the stitch off options we've got. Again, we've got U.S. Army grade canvas, we've got heavy grade denim, we've got acrylic fiber, we've got bubblegum material, we've got commercial upholstery material, we've got kind of a satin material, compressed felt, snake skin, protected full grain leather, and last but not least, we've got elk hide. So let me invite whoever wants to chime in. What materials would you like us to sew next? Kind of give me a rank order, and we'll put that to use. I'm going to kind of come over here. Okay, Emma, it looks like Emma, I'm kind of looking up above here. Emma put down snakeskin, silk or lace is a mermaider. So we'll have to make some pressure foot adjustments when we go from one of those materials to another to kind of back off that pressure. Let's see. Okay, so let me kind of grab the ones that people spoke about. I'm going to grab this snakeskin. I'm going to grab this real light, and I'm not an expert on materials by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm going to call this kind of a satin silk material. It's quite lovely, but I think of Christmas, I think of the holidays whenever I see this color, don't you? So I'm going to move the rest of these to the side. It doesn't mean that we can't do the rest of these materials, but we'll focus on the snakeskin right now. We'll focus on this lighter silky satin type material, and then I'll let you pick some more choices as far as these that we have remaining here. Okay. So we'll set up with the snakeskin first. Again, I haven't sewed snakeskin in a real long time. As a matter of fact, I'm wondering if I should cut this in half and not waste any material. Why don't I do that? Okay, so I'm going to throw this to the side. This is going to be our snakeskin type material. I'm going to give this a go, see how the machine manages it. And I'm going to leave the pressure foot lever pressure up on this because snakeskin tends to be a little bit slippery. And I want to have a little bit more pressure to manage that. Okay, so let's give this a go, see how this 66-1 from 1922, getting ready to celebrate a 100-year birthday this Monday, turning 100 years old this Monday. And I know I'm not turning it very fast, just kind of going along here. I don't want to jam my finger in that balance wheel spoke area, so taking it kind of slow. Yeah, quite lovely. I would say that when we look at this, you're going to notice the same thing I do, and that is that sewing this particular material, this snake skin, that our top stitch is good, but it could be better. So what we would have to do is we would have to back off our upper tension a little bit to give that top stitch a little bit better definition. I'm actually going to grab my stitch off holder because I don't have the benefit now of Chris to hold the camera for me. So we're going to look at the top stitching first. Again, in my opinion, it's a little bit underserved. It's a little bit underserved. So I think what I would do again to give the top stitch a little bit better definition is I would go ahead and back off that upper tension a little bit. I would turn this back a little bit. And then it would allow that bobbin case to pull down a little bit harder to define this top stitch better. See if I can get fairly close and give you a look at the stitching. It's not bad, but it could be a lot better. It's not bad. So all in all, I'm very pleased with the top stitch on this snakeskin. But I think we could make it better if we back off that upper tension a little bit if we were going to be sewing a ton of snakeskin. Now let's look at the back side and we'll look at that lock stitch. The lock stitch is quite spectacular, but I think it's almost a little bit over poppy, which means that upper tension is pulling too hard and it's actually compressing that stitch just slightly as it's drawing it up through that snakeskin. So a real lovely lock stitch. I think a nice looking top stitch as well. I think we could make it better. But snakeskin is not a super easy material to sew. And Chris's 66-1 managed it very, very nicely, giving us some lovely, lovely stitching. So I'm going to throw that to the back as well. And again, I always give the stitch offs to the owner. So Chris will get all of the stitch offs. He was so proud of the 2 layers of saddle gray leather that we did. He stuck it in his pocket straight away. And he's very excited to show it to other people I know as well. Oh yeah, welcome back to Big Joker again. I remember Big Joker was in our most recent live stream again. And again, welcome to all of our new friends that have joined us today. And I'm so fortunate to have Paula and Emma and Sunny and Bill and Veronica and Michelle as the greeters and the fellow teachers that are there to make you feel welcome. They do such a beautiful job of it, don't they? They do such a beautiful job of helping you to feel welcome. Okay, so now we're going to try to sew this real light silk satin type material. And I'll have to make a few subtle little adjustments to get ready for this. I'm going to go ahead and we'll do this back to back like this, kind of folded it in half. So we're going to be sewing 2 layers of this material. Again, I'll just call it kind of a Christmas material. Kind of feels that way, doesn't it? And I'll back off that presser foot pressure just slightly. Again, when you're dealing with more delicate materials like this, you want to back off that presser foot pressure. So I go up here. I'm going to give this about 3 turns counterclockwise to back it off. So 1, 2, just about 3. And again, when I turn it counterclockwise, now it's going to be pressing down a little bit lighter because we're going to be working with this more delicate material. All right, let's give this a go. See what we think of this. All right, here we go. Oh, wait, let me set myself up for semi-success in sewing straight anyway. Let me use Paula Noel's clips to hold this material sorted together. All right, here we go. Let's give this a try. All right, I'll take these clips off and then we'll take a look at this stitching, see what we think of it. And I didn't notice, you were probably in a better position to see than I could see, but I didn't notice any bunching. I didn't notice any bunching of the material, which means we were smart to back off that presser foot pressure. Again, if you're sewing with presser foot pressure too high on some of these lighter materials, you're going to notice that the material, as you're feeding it over the feed dogs and underneath the presser foot, it's going to kind of bunch up a little bit. It'll bunch up and get kind of a puckered look to it. This fed very nicely because we made that adjustment of backing off the presser foot pressure. So just keep that in mind as you're going through different materials. You might have to make subtle adjustments so that you can set yourself up for success and give that machine every opportunity to succeed. That's really the big deal, isn't it? We want our machines to succeed because when they succeed, we succeed. All right, I'm going to keep this oriented correctly. This is our top stitch. Let me get my little stitch off display. I'm actually going to go on the lower level now so I can get a little bit closer to it. So you'll notice I'm on this lower level now. When I put it up on the bed of the machine, I'm a little bit restricted in how close I can get. And I love to get as close as I can for you guys. So this is our top stitch. Again, this silk satin Christmassy type material. Let's take a look at this. See what we think. Some really, really gorgeous looking stitching. And I don't even have this completely level. I'm going to push it back a little bit again. There we go. But I'll pause right there and just say, you know what? That's page 34, folks. That is page 34 stitching. Really lovely, isn't it? And no, I don't always sew straight. You can see I kind of sewed uphill or downhill a little bit, didn't I? The machine is doing a great job, and it always tends to make up for my mistakes, doesn't it? Yeah. I can even stop there and just show you the totality of the stitching. Quite lovely. Quite lovely. I'm almost seeing, and maybe you're seeing something different on your screen, but I'm almost seeing a little bit of a compression of that top stitch, which would imply that maybe our bobbin case in this instance, with it being such a delicate material, our bobbin case might be pulling down a little bit too hard. But again, it's a very, very lovely stitch. Very lovely stitch. Let's turn it around and look at that lock stitch, see what we think of that. This is our lock stitch again on this silk satin type material. I love seeing material like this, don't you? It immediately makes me think of Christmas and the holidays. That one's kind of hidden underneath there a little bit, isn't it? There we go. So some lovely stitching on this very delicate silk satin type material, both the lock stitch that we're looking at right now, and then certainly the top stitch as well is quite spectacular. So let me throw that to the back. So what we've sewn so far, and I can't show you the saddle grade leather, the 2 layers, because like I said, Chris was adorable in wanting to put that into his pocket. Can I have that? I want that. Give me that. Give me that, Scott. I love it. So we've done 2 layers of saddle grade leather. We've done snake skin. We've done this satin silk type material. Here's what we have left. And again, I'll leave it up to all of you as to what you want to see first. So I've got this protected full grain leather. We can try 2 layers of this as well. I think it'd be kind of fun to go through 2 layers of saddle grade leather. Not saddle grade, excuse me. 2 layers of protected full grain leather. That is the thickness of a belt. That's about probably 6 to 8 ounces of leather. And again, protected full grain leather is going to have a coating on it to protect it from staining and also to give it more wearability, more durability. So it's not going to be an easy sew off. We'll probably do a single layer first, and then we'll add that second layer to it, kind of like we did with the saddle grade leather. So this is one of our options right here. Then we've got this elk hide, which is a little bit terrifying. Look at the thickness of that. And elk hide is chemically processed. So when you sew elk hide, you're not only sewing through the density of that leather, but when they chemically process, it galvanizes the surface of that leather. It galvanizes it, and it makes it very, very difficult to pierce through it. And with this instance, if we do this sew off, we're going to be sewing the equivalent of a man's belt, powered by Scott's hand. Powered by Scott's hand. So you know what? It's a little bit insane, isn't it? But that's part of the fun on this channel, is we do things that other people go, no way, I am not going to try that. Then we've got this compressed felt. This is really quite nice stuff. I love this stuff. And I'll probably do a single layer and then do 2 layers of it, something like that. I'll leave that up to you guys to choose. We've got this commercial upholstery material. Really, I mean, it's got like a sticky back. This is scary stuff to sew. Very, very difficult to get through. Bubblegum material. Again, it's got that vinyl content, real stretchy stuff. Acrylic fiber used to make awnings. We've got this denim, heavy grade denim. Probably do 4 to 6 layers of that. And then last but not least, we've got this U.S. Army grade canvas. So what do you guys think? What are we going to do next? We've got the canvas, we've got the denim, we've got the acrylic fiber, we've got the bubblegum material, we've got the compressed felt, we've got the commercial upholstery material, and then we've got our different leather different leather choices as well. This is kind of our next potential options. And I'm looking at the chat. Let me see. They are awesome. Big Joker, good morning. Oh, I need to read further down. Catch up, Scott. Hello. So Emma is saying do the compressed felt, and then Christine is saying do the elk hide. So those are the next two materials we're going to sew. We're going to do the elk hide, and we're going to do the compressed felt. And again, if anyone wants a sample of this compressed felt, send me a note, and I'll mail it to you. You know, within reason. If you're over in Australia or the UK, I might ask you to help cover postage, but otherwise, I'll be glad to send you some of this compressed felt. Really is quite impressive stuff. So we'll do a single layer of compressed felt, 2 layers of compressed felt, and then we'll finally do the elk hide. Or maybe we'll do the elk hide first. I don't know. I'll set these other sew-offs to the side. We'll keep those in reserve. That silk satin stuff kind of went all over the place. All right. So I got this set up for the elk hide. What do I need to remember to do before we try to sew this? What do I need to remember to do? You guys remember? What do I need to do before sewing this elk hide, attempting to sew this elk hide? What should I do first? We made an adjustment to accommodate this sew off. We made an adjustment to accommodate this sew off. What adjustment did we make? This is a real fragile, delicate material. It wasn't tension. It wasn't tension. Those are great answers, Emma and Christine. Excellent, excellent answers. But we didn't make an adjustment on the tension to accommodate this material. Yes, Mermaider X is spot on. Paula Noel is spot on. We made an adjustment to the presser foot pressure because we had to lighten it up for this material. We've got to do the opposite for this material. Where is it? There it is. We got to do the opposite for the elk hide. We got to bump that presser foot pressure up. We got to bump it up. So let's do that right now before we forget. So I turned it, I think, 3 turns, right? 3 turns. Now we need to take it 3 turns back clockwise to make sure we have adequate presser foot pressure. Will it sew this elk hide if we didn't make this adjustment? Yes, it will. But what will happen when you have inadequate presser foot pressure, when this isn't pushing down hard enough on a material like this? What you're going to get is you're going to get a stubbier stitch. It's going to make that stitch shorter, even though you've got your stitch length turned all the way up. Even though you have it turned all the way up to 6 stitches per inch, if you don't increase this for a sew-off like this, you're going to be getting about 10 stitches per inch because it's not able to feed this material adequately. It's not able to feed it adequately. So we've got to give it every opportunity to succeed. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I just bumped it back up 3 turns clockwise. Now we should be in pretty good shape for this elk hide. Hopefully. Hopefully. If we get a little bit of a stubby stitch, then we know that I didn't go far enough with that presser foot pressure. We know that we didn't go far enough. Yeah. Emma's exactly right. No advancement of material. You know, the feed dogs are gripping the bottom of this elk hide. The presser foot attachment here is pushing down. They're kind of pushing and sandwiching. They're sandwiching that leather. But if there's not enough pressure pushing down, the feed dogs can't advance the material. Exactly right. Yeah. I think Paul is right too. I think tearaway backers or some sort of a stiffener equivalent is also very helpful when you're sewing different materials, especially if you have layered materials. Yeah, excellent ideas. See what I'm saying, you guys? I say it all the time, and I'm not just saying it to say it. We are fellow teachers in this classroom. You teach me, I share things with you. Sometimes a teacher, always what? Sometimes a teacher, always what? Sometimes a teacher, always what? Yeah, Paul is spot on. Look at that. Sometimes, yeah, Emma's spot on. Christine is spot on. Yeah, we learn from each other. And if you're in other forums where they've got some sort of a sewing savant that thinks that they have the answer and the wisdom of the ages, and they don't involve, yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Yali V, student. If you're in one of those circles and they almost make you feel like you're dumb and they don't involve you and they don't tap into your knowledge, leave those places for goodness sakes. Hey, Mindy, welcome to Mindy as well, my dear friend from Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. Great to have you, dear. Great to have you. So, yeah, I mean, we've got to learn from each other. When you stop learning, you might as well just give it up. When you stop learning, just give it up. Because, one of my favorite quotes, and I'm not reading it. I have it memorized. I'll actually I'll show you me on camera so you know that I'm not reading it. Aristotle thought to be one of the smartest dudes of the time. Aristotle, even today, people talk about how smart Aristotle was. And he said the truly wise person realizes their intelligence is a drop of water, their ignorance an ocean. Aristotle said the truly wise person realizes their intelligence is a drop of water, their ignorance an ocean. I've got a big ocean of discovery yet to gain, a lot more things to learn. And I'm going to learn a number of those things. I'm going to learn a number of those things from all of you. You're going to be my teacher. You're going to teach me things that I didn't know. Isn't that cool? Isn't that the way it should be? Yeah, exactly. That's the way it should be. I got to get a quick little drink, you guys. Not the breakfast of champions, but, Diet Coke. Where is it? There it is. I do have a Diet Coke in the morning sometimes. That's one of my vices or one of my pleasures, depending on how you look at it. Yeah. All right. I'm going to watch our time too, because we've been running about our time when we're together passes so ridiculously fast. We've been together now already, believe it or not, we've been together an hour and 43 minutes. It doesn't feel like that. It does not feel like that at all. All right. Let's see how we do on this elk hide. Again, we're talking about belt thickness. It's going to be about 6 to 8 ounces of leather. It's chemically processed. Let's see how this machine does. I'm going to get close to the stitching, but I also want you to be able to see me turning this balance wheel. That's how we're powering the machine today. So let's see how I do. Hopefully I do okay. Oh, that's a thicker part. I just felt that needle hit that part of the elk hide, and that needle was like, no, I don't think so. Not today. Thanks for offering, but I don't think I'm going to sew that today. I don't think so. So watch towards the back here. You'll see those stitches starting to appear as we're going through this very thick layer of genuine elk hide. Very, very thick layer. And I've worked this needle quite a bit already, so hopefully this needle holds up. If we start to get skip stitches on some of the sew-offs, that's going to indicate that our needle is probably tiring out a little bit. We'll see how we do. Yeah, that's some really nice looking stitching. I hope you can see that in the shot already. I'm hitting the thicker end of the hide over here. I'll show you. It's quite a bit thicker on this end. And that's the thing about leather is it's not going to be exactly the same thickness usually from one end to the other. Certain parts are going to be a little bit thinner. Other parts are going to be a little bit thicker. And if you're hand turning it like I am right now, let me kind of widen the shot a little bit. If you're hand turning it like I am right now, you're going to be able to tell straight away when you're hitting some of those thicker parts. It's going to feel different as that needle is trying to pierce through that super thick layer of elk hide. Absolutely gorgeous. Let me lower the camera. I'll put this on the stitch off holder so you can see it more easily too. This is prominent enough. I can maybe even just lean it against the presser foot right there. Let's see if I can get close enough. Yeah, I want to get closer. Hold on a second. Let's actually bring it all the way over to here. So again, to give you an idea, I'm going to show you from this edge over here. This is the thickness of what we just went through. That is not a thin sew-off, folks. Not a thin sew-off. All right, let's take a look at these stitches, see what we think. There we go. Folks, I'm seeing page 34. You let me know what you think, but I'm seeing some gorgeous, gorgeous page 34 stitching. (1922) machine celebrating 100 years old. 100 years old this coming Monday. Totality of the stitching. Now, if you have a business and you're doing leather goods and maybe you're selling them on Etsy or you're selling them in one of those other venues and you have stitch quality like this on your leather work, you're going to be out of stock all the time. You're always going to be out of stock because the stitching is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Now, are we going to see the same thing on the lock stitch? Because the lock stitch is always harder to generate for that machine, isn't it? We're not going to see any difference. There's totality of the stitching right there. Absolutely page 34. And I'm impressed too. I'm generally satisfied. I think that our upper tension might be a little bit on the high side for going through this leather right now. Again, we're not going through thin leather. There's the thickness we just went through. But a beautiful lock stitch as well. I might just back off that upper tension just slightly to give it a little bit less poppiness and give a little bit more to that top stitch. But all in all, we've got a very good balance right now. We've got a very good balance right now. And we haven't made any tension adjustments whatsoever. We've sewn saddle gray leather. We've sewn a silk satin material. We've sewn snake skin. And now we're sewing elk hide. We haven't made any tension adjustments whatsoever. We haven't changed the tension. The only thing we changed is the presser foot pressure. Definitely, definitely brag-worthy stitching on this elk hide. And again, hand turning it with a thickness like this. Folks, can you imagine just for a second? And I don't want to beat up the plastic machines, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I know that you probably would too. But imagine one of those plastic machines trying to stitch off on this genuine elk hide. One of those machines you can get and I won't mention any retailer names, but you know what machines I'm talking about, the disposable machines that are out there right now that are being sold to people. And maybe some of them want to try sewing leather like this. Good luck, neighbor, because where all of this through here is forged steel, those machines that you buy at those local retailers that are disposable now are going to have plastic this and plastic that. And that's why I am in love with vintage sewing machines, because they're built like an M1 Abrams tank. They're built like a tank. Yeah, they are. All right, what do we have left? We just did the elk hide. And again, I don't have the 2 layers of saddle grade leather because Chris ran off with that, which is totally cool. He's the owner, he's the boss. But here's our other sew-offs here we've done so far. Saddle grade leather, single layer. We did the double layer that Chris has. We did the snake skin. We did this light silk satin material. We did the genuine elk hide. What do we have left? What we have left is, I'm getting ahead of myself. We've got to do compressed felt now. I apologize. We've got to do compressed felt, and then I'll ask the question about what we have left. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's do a single layer of compressed felt. Let me do it on the left side. Single layer of compressed felt, and then we'll add a second layer to it. We'll add this second layer to it after that. Okay? All right. So single layer of compressed felt. Let me get through this one too. I'm getting more speed now, you guys. Maybe my right hand is getting stronger. Oh, you can actually see in the reflection, you can see me turning it. That's kind of fun. Got to steer it a little bit. I'm kind of going off course. Well, that's okay. All right, I'm going to stop right there. I'll kind of give you a pre-glimpse of the stitching that we just laid down. Yeah, all in all, I would say it's a good-looking top stitch, but if I were being real persnickety, and we'll look at this real close up, if I were being real persnickety, I probably would back off that upper tension, this right here. I would back off this upper tension just slightly to give a little bit more definition to this top stitch. I haven't even seen the lock stitch yet, but I'm guessing the lock stitch is going to be a little bit overly poppy, because what I'm seeing right now is it's not a bad looking top stitch, but it could be better. It could be better. And it could be better by us backing off that upper tension, giving a little bit more power to the bobbin case down here that's pulling down, and to give a little bit more definition to this. But let's take a closer look at it and see what we think, and then we'll add that second layer to it. Yeah, I'm always a little bit overcritical when it comes to stitch quality. I'm real persnickety when it comes to stitch quality. I hope you are too. But I think that top stitch could be better. Yep, our lock stitch is a little bit overly poppy. But again, compressed felt is a real tricky material to sew. It's a little bit tricky to sew. Let's take a look at this, and then we'll add that second layer and see what we think. Make sure I have this facing correctly. Yeah, that's our top stitch. We'll look at this first, and then we'll flip it over, look at that lock stitch, and we'll add that second layer of compressed felt. So this is our top stitch. It's not horrible, I would say it's pretty doggone good, but we could make it better. We could make it better for sure. Waiting for the camera to focus. I think I'm a little bit too close. I'll back up just a little bit. There we go. And that's kind of tucked under a little bit. I have to kind of tilt that back a little bit. Yeah, I would say it's near page 34. I'm being a little bit critical of it because I think it could be more poppy. So I'm going to turn it over, look at that lock stitch, see what we think of that. The lock stitch you're going to see is a lot more pronounced. And again, that's a product of, the lock stitch is going to be the product of this upper tension pulling up. So our lock stitch is absolutely bang on. It's page 34, but it's almost page 34 over the top because it took a little bit away from that top stitch, didn't it? So we would make an adjustment to this, of backing off that upper tension a little bit, and then we would be able to give more definition to our top stitch. And we'll probably make that adjustment before we do the second layer. Some real good lock stitch presentation here, but again, a little bit over the top. So we're going to back off that upper tension a little bit before we add that second layer. Beautiful stitching. But again, we need to make a slight adjustment. So I'm going to set this up here. This is our top stitch. We're going to add that second layer underneath. And we're going to make a slight adjustment on the tension. This is really one of the first times we're going to be goofing around with that tension to try to take into account the unique factors. Every material that we work with is going to have unique qualities and properties to it, isn't it? And so as we're sewing this compressed felt, we've got to take into account, we've got to give a little bit more authority to this top stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the camera angle a little bit. I'm just going to back this off just slightly. Probably give it about a 2 millimeter adjustment down. Not a lot, just a slight adjustment on that. So by adjusting that pressure, the upper tension down just slightly, by adjusting that down just slightly, what we're doing now, yeah, it's not a bad looking top stitch, but it could be better. So what we're doing then by adjusting that upper tension down is we're going to give more authority to that bobbin case in there to pull down, to define this top stitch a little bit better. Okay? And we'll see what happens. Again, we're doing 2 layers. We'll see how the machine's going to do great, but sometimes it's a matter of setting the machine up for success, isn't it? All right, let's give this a go. 2 layers of compressed felt. See what we think. See how close we're coming to this little clip here. Almost touched it, not quite. Okay, let's stop right there. Yeah, you'll be able to see the difference right away. You'll be able to see the difference right away as far as the poppiness of that top stitch when you look at them side by side. Again, the one over here is the one we did first, and you'll see that it's not nearly as defined. We made that little adjustment. All we did was back off the upper tension just about 2 millimeters. And all of a sudden, this stitch comes out to life and says, look at me. Look at me. This is saying, look at me. This is saying, I'm almost there. Look at me. I'm almost there. Look at me. I'm almost there. So a subtle little adjustment like that can all of a sudden bring your stitching to life. It can bring it to a point where, here it's near page 34. On the right, it's a solid page 34. With just that subtle upper tension adjustment, not a big drastic adjustment, just a subtle adjustment. And all of a sudden it's like, wow. It's changing our standards, isn't it? It's raising the bar where someone selling a sewing machine would show the stitch on the left and say, isn't that lovely? And people not knowing any better would say, oh yeah, it's very nice. And then they would compare it to this stitch on the right and they'd be going, well, yeah, that one's not quite there. That one's definitely there. Yeah, definitely there. We did not change the stitch length. We did not really even change. We didn't change the press of foot pressure. All we did is make a slight adjustment on upper tension. Really cool, isn't it? Let me cut the threads off of here and we'll look at it even closer. But again, I get all excited. I get all giddy and say, look at the difference we made. But are we going to see going through the 2 layers of compressed felt? I adjusted this down a little bit to give us a better top stitch, but did I go too far? Did I go too far? Are we going to see a reduction in poppiness and quality for that lock stitch? Hopefully not. But that is the danger when you're trying to get a more poppy top stitch and you say, I'm going to take away some of your authority up here. I'm going to bump you down a little bit so that I can have a better top stitch. If you go too far, and the same thing is true of making adjustments on the bobbin case. If you go too far, you're going to gain one and you're going to lose the other. So the key is to take it in very gradual, very subtle steps so that as you're making an adjustment up here to have a more poppy top stitch, you're not going to take away too much from that lock stitch. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, give a smiley face, a thumbs up, or a dancing person, or whatever you want to say in the live chat, just so I know that it makes sense. Because I really want you to understand the tension balance is a real critical thing. And speaking of Chris's grandmother, who was a very experienced seamstress. Hey, Susie. Good to see you, Susie. Chris's grandmother was a very experienced seamstress. I've even had seamstresses contact me that didn't understand as much as all of you do about the balance between upper tension and bobbin case. They didn't get it. And that's okay, because we can teach them. We can teach them, not me. You and I can teach them together. All right, let's take a look at this stitching. And I'm going to have the second row of stitching on the top. I'm going to have the original row of stitching on the bottom. So our top row is the first stitch line we did. The bottom row is the second stitch line we did with that tension adjustment. Or do I have them upside down? No, I have them upside down. The top row, maybe I said it right, or maybe I said it wrong. The top row is after the adjustment. The bottom row is the original sew off that we did. I think I got it right that time. Yeah, the bottom row is the original sew off. The top row is after we made that subtle adjustment on the upper tension. We bumped it down a little bit. Okay, now let's look at them. That'll make more sense now, I think. I'm going to let the camera catch up a little bit. The camera's having a little bit of a focus issue. Let me stop right there. There we go. So there especially, you can see the contrast. I can see the contrast. I hope you can as well. That bottom row is just not as good as it can be. The top row, all of a sudden, when you see them comparatively, it's noticeably better. It's noticeably better, isn't it? Camera doesn't know where to focus. Let me try that again. All right. I'm not going to drive you guys crazy by trying to, it's really kind of tricky to keep the camera steady enough so that it can, this camera is very smart, but it's trying to, do I focus on this? Do I focus on that? Oh, I'm focusing on that now. But even from this distance, you can see right away the difference in the quality of stitching. The top row is after our adjustment, the bottom row is before. Big difference. Let's turn it over. We're only going to see one line of stitching because we added that second layer. Did we preserve our lock stitch? I hope we did. I don't think we overcompensated. Did we preserve our lock stitch? Let's see what we think. Oh, absolutely. Still a very lovely lock stitch, but we gave some of its power back to that top stitch very nicely. So we didn't go too far. Sometimes if you make an adjustment, you'll go too far. We did a good job of balancing it. Let me pause right there so the camera can catch up and focus. There we go. Okay, so totality of the stitching on the lock stitch, I think we achieved a page 34 top and bottom. We initially had a near page 34 with that one stitch line that was under emphasized on top. We made that adjustment. We took it to a page 34 and we didn't lose our page 34 down here. So I'm very pleased. I'm very, very pleased that we're able to do that. Now I've got it upside down. I've got it upside down. So that muddled stitch line we did is now on top and the adjusted stitch line is on the bottom. And you can see straight away, I think, the difference. Yeah. All right, let's move on to our next sew off now. And I want to be mindful of time as well. We're a little bit over 2 hours. And I know all of you, we love gathering together. We love sharing and learning from each other and all the things that we have a chance to do. But I also want to be considerate of your time as well. So here's what we have left as far as potential stitch offs on Chris's machine. We've got this protected full grain leather. That's really the last of the leather we have. We've got this commercial upholstery material. We've got the bubble gum material, the acrylic fiber. We've got the heavy grade denim. And then last but not least, we've got the U.S. Army grade canvas. So I'm going to look at the chat. This is what we have left. We don't have to do all of them. We don't have to. But we'll, we certainly can if you guys want to stick it out. We'll go through the entire stack and then we'll have a beautiful sew off sandwich. I also call it kind of our sewing Olympics, don't you? it's our Olympics for that sewing machine. We're not going to do a single sew off and consider it done. We're not going to do a single sew off and then consider it done. We're going to press that machine and really, really put it through a genuine test. We don't want to just do window dressing. We don't want to do window dressing on this channel and, oh, well, we did one sew off. Hey, no, that's garbage. That's not really putting the machine through the true test. We're going to go through, we already did go through all these sew offs, plus the 2 layers of saddle grade leather that Chris has in his pocket. So this by itself is probably enough, but we're going to go further. We're going to go further for sure. Yeah. All right. What do y'all think here? I love the emoji, if I'm using the correct term, that Yali V and Big Joker put up there. That's a hoot. I love those emojis, you guys. That's awesome. Okay, so we're looking at acrylic fiber and denim. Acrylic fiber and denim. All right, acrylic fiber and denim. Acrylic fiber and denim. And that'll leave us with U.S. Army grade canvas, bubblegum material, commercial upholstery material, and then one more potential leather sew off with this protected full grain leather. So I'm going to set these off to the side. And I think we'll do the denim first, and then we'll do the acrylic fiber second. So here we've got denim. Again, I'm the source of power for the machine today. I've got 2 layers of it right here. I'm going to go ahead and fold it in the middle. Get us up to 4 layers, I guess that would be 4 layers. And then I'm going to fold it one more time and get us up to 6 layers. That's probably a little bit on the crazy side. Even someone that sews a lot of denim is not always likely they're probably never, let's just be honest. They're probably never going to be doing 6 layers of denim. But isn't it nice to know that this machine potentially can handle that level of sewing? Especially when I'm turning it by hand. 6 layers of heavy grade denim. This is not that stretchy, junky denim that a lot of the kids are wearing these days. This is genuine denim like you would find on a farm. Very much like where Chris's grandmother had this machine originally. But I don't think maybe she did. But I don't think most people are going to sew 6 layers of denim. Probably not. We're going to give it a try. See how we do. Hopefully we don't have any skip stitches because again, this needle has gotten a real big workout. And yes, it's a Schmetz needle, but you never know. And look at the clearance as well with this -1. Look at the clearance. We've got room to spare, even with 6 layers of denim. And the 66-1 does not have a hyperextension. It doesn't have a hyperextension. So what you see is what you get. All right, let's see how we do with this one. And because of the thickness of this, I am going to bump us up even a little bit higher. Presser foot pressure, just bump us up a little bit more. Probably give us 2 turns clockwise. 2 turns clockwise. 1, 2. So what we did now is we turned that 2 times clockwise. Now that pressure is even higher, pushing down on this 6 layers of denim so that those feed dogs can try to move it more evenly. It may still not be enough. It still may not be enough. And again, we're just using a standard presser foot attachment. We don't have the benefit of a roller foot. We don't have a walking foot. So we don't have that additional feed from up on top. We're relying strictly on this pushing down hard enough and those feed dogs moving the material underneath the material. So I increase the presser foot pressure, but it might not be enough. It might not be enough. So if the stitches when we get done look a little bit stubbier, it's because I didn't bump that presser foot pressure up high enough. Okay, are we ready? I'm not going to try to clip this. I'm just going to try to guide it as best I can because it's so ridiculously thick. Look at the thickness of that from that side. It's so ridiculously thick. We'll just do our best with it. Look at that faceplate. Isn't that distracting? It didn't look like that. Well, you guys know that. It didn't look like that before. All right. I feel inspired. You guys just humor me. I feel inspired to ring the bell before we try this one. I'm going to ring the bell to give us superpowers, super sewing powers to try to go through 6 layers of heavy grade denim. Again, powered by me. Powered by me. Let's see how we do. All right, here we go. Oh, man. That needle hit that and said, yeah, right. Right, buddy. Right, buddy. That needle is going through it with a lot of effort. That is thick. Holy mackerel. Oh man, that was a hard spot right there. Wow. Wow. Oh man, there was a hard spot. All right, I'm going to stop there. Jiminy doo-dah day. Oh, we've got a nice, so our presser foot bump up. We bump that presser foot up, that presser foot pressure, exactly the right thing to do. We've got a nice full stitch. It's not stubby at all. If we hadn't bumped that presser foot pressure up by 2 turns to increase it, that stitch would not be as full as it is. It definitely would not be as full. There's no way. Oh, and good balance on the lock stitch too. I took a little peek. Again, this, if you're joining us a little bit late on the live stream, this is a 1922 Singer 66-1. This coming Monday, on Monday, when Monday comes, remember to light a candle if you have a candle. Light a candle because on Monday, this machine is going to turn 100 years old. 100 years old. That's kind of cool. That's our lock stitch. This is our top. Which way? Oh, I showed it. I did like, this is our top stitch. I sometimes get misoriented, but I remember that fold was to the right. So let's get our stitch off holder and take a look at these stitches. Look at, again, the thickness of what we just went through. Again, turning it by hand. 6 layers of heavy grade denim. 6 layers of heavy grade denim. That's our top stitch. Give you a little glimpse like this. Why not? On the stitch off holder, it's going to be better. A little bit easier to see. It's our top stitch. Oh my gosh. There's our lock stitch. Let's look at it closer up. Easier to see. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. I can actually show you the whole thing. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Page 34 for sure. And again, through 6 layers of heavy grade denim. And imagine all the sewing that I've already shown you during this live stream, plus all the sewing I did off camera. But that's why I love Schmetz needles. I just do. And not to say that organ needles aren't great. There's a lot of good needle makers out there. There really are. But I really have a preference towards Schmetz. That's our top stitch. Let's turn it around. Look at that lock stitch. Look at that lock stitch as well and see what we think of that. I'm seeing a beautiful lock stitch. Really quite lovely. Lovely, lovely lock stitch as well. I had a little bit of trouble with the material is so thick, it's kind of puckering a little bit, but I'll kind of move it back to that point as well. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. That again is our lock stitch. Exactly what we want to be seeing for stitch quality and caliber presentation. Beautiful stitching. Top stitch, no difference other than it's trying to tip over. No difference. Beautiful stitching. Isn't that exciting to see? I mean, the thickness, look at the thickness from the side. So, can a treadle machine, can a 66-1 from 1922 so heavy grade? Duh. Yeah, it can. It definitely can. All right, let's do acrylic fiber now. Get a quick little swig of my Diet Coke. Some of you might not know this about me, but back in the day, before I ever started doing this type of work, I worked in corporate America and I worked for Pepsi. And so for the fact that I'm drinking Diet Coke now, having formerly worked for Pepsi, yeah, I hope to find out. Don't tell them. Don't contact Pepsi and tell them, please. I'll be in trouble. All right, so here's our acrylic fiber, again, used to make awnings. You can just look at that surface and go, holy macro, that looks nasty. It's really kind of a Kevlar finish almost. Both sides of it. One side's a little bit lighter than the other. I'll probably fold, well, we've got white thread. I don't know. It may not make a difference. I'll fold it like that. Maybe it'll be a little bit easier to see the stitch quality. Kind of fold it in half. We'll do 2 layers of this acrylic fiber. Kind of get that into place. And I'm going to leave that presser foot pressure at the higher level because this stuff, if you could feel it with your own hands, it's a little bit slippery. It's a little bit on the slippery side. We use our clips as well to give us a little bit of an edge on that, hopefully. All right, so 2 layers of acrylic fiber. Again, if you're not familiar with this stuff, it's used in the application of making awnings. Awnings, all of us know about awnings. I mean, they get hit by heavy wind, they get hit by cold, by heat, UV, everything else, and they just continue to usually, continue to go hard, go strong. All right, let's do this acrylic awning, see what we think now about this. And I will, you know what, I haven't done it all. I haven't done it at all. I haven't done it at all. I haven't shortened the stitch up a little bit either, but it's going to be really hard to see on this material if I do it on here. Why don't we try that? If we do the leather, or if we do the US Army grade canvas, I'll make a stitch adjustment so you can see that shorter stitch as well and how pretty that is too. Right now we'll leave this at full length because this is such a busy material to look at, isn't it? All right, let's give this a go. You can't feel it because I'm doing it. You can see in the reflection there, me turning it. That needle hits this, it feels just like that leather. This is very, very strong stuff. You start to see that stitching present near the rear of the presser foot attachment. Kind of hard to see it, isn't it? Because of the nature of that material. Hopefully we'll get a clearer view when we set it up on that stitch off holder, but it is a little bit hard to see on this material. It just is. All right, I think that's good. Go ahead and take these clips off. Oh, that's some beautiful stitching. I hope you're able to see it okay. I'll try to get real close to it. Beautiful top stitch there. Yeah, our lock stitch is okay, but I would almost say that at a quick glance, we would want to bump our upper tension back up in order to accommodate this acrylic fiber. Because again, the piercing threshold on this acrylic fiber, because of the way it's made, it's quite a bit higher. In other words, as that thread and needle is passing through this, it's meeting a lot more resistance. It's meeting a lot more resistance than a standard type material of the same thickness. So I'm actually going to make that adjustment right now before I forget. Remember, we bumped it down. We have to bump it back up a little bit now, just a hair, just to accommodate for this material. Yeah, yep, definitely. Top stitch is good. I think it's good to go. Lock stitch is going to be a little bit weak, and that's a product of that upper tension not having quite enough grit to do it in this instance. Let's take a look at this. So this is our top stitch. Again, the top stitch is defined by the bobbin case below. Boy, that camera is struggling. This material is so busy. It's like, what do I focus on? See if we can help it out here a little bit. There we go. It's starting to come into focus now, I think, a little bit. Maybe I'll be better off from a little bit more distance on this one, just because of the camera's trying to focus on the material and then it's trying to focus on the stitching. It's a little bit tricky. Lower it down a little bit more. This is always a tough one for the camera to try to get an image of. There we go. It's starting to come into form a little bit there. There we go. All right, I'm not going to drive you bug house with trying to see the stitching on this, but it really is quite lovely stitching the top stitch. The lock stitch on the bottom that we're going to look at next is a little bit underserved. It's a little bit underserved. That poor camera. That poor camera's looking at that material like, okay, do I focus over here? Do I focus there? Where do I focus, for goodness sakes? It's having quite a challenge, isn't it? At any rate, it's a lovely stitch. Let me turn it around. We'll look at that lock stitch, which is not bad. It's not horrible, but it's underserved. Kind of like that other stitch off we did where we had to make the adjustment to give that top stitch a little bit more poppiness. See how it's not horrible, but it's a little bit more muddled, isn't it? It doesn't have that pizzazz. And that's a simple adjustment of that upper tension. Whoops, too low. Try that again. Yeah, see there we've got some really good lock stitching. Looks good. But it could be better. It could definitely be better. Try getting even closer. Yeah, this camera's looking at this acrylic fiber and saying, no. No. Oh my gosh. So at any rate, what we would do, I'm going to come out on the shot. What we would do to make this more poppy and more defined as a lock stitch is we would just do what I already did, and that is bump up that upper tension a little bit. It really is quite a lovely stitch, but it's just the camera is just having so much difficulty focusing on this. Maybe a little bit easier if we go vertical. Maybe not. Yeah, that's a little bit easier when I'll have to remember, you guys can remind me when we do acrylic fiber, instead of looking at it horizontally, instead of trying to look at it horizontally, we might want to just look at it vertically. It's going to be a little bit easier for the camera, a little bit easier for us to see it, isn't it? All right. I appreciate your patience. I don't want to be like some of the channels out there where people will give you like a quick little glimpse. And you're like, I didn't even have a chance to see it. I like to dwell just a little bit so you have a chance to see things closer up. But this stuff is just a nightmare when it comes to a camera being able to see it. When Chris holds this in his own hand, he'll be able to see the stitch definition on both sides very easily. The camera is going, it's like crossing its eyes almost, saying, yeah, good luck, buddy. All right. So what do we have left? We only have really 1, 2, 3, 4 options, I think, at this point. We've got 4 options to wrap up this live stream. We've got protected full grain leather, which is what we have left on the leather side. We've got bubblegum material. Again, bubblegum material, if you're joining us late, it's a high vinyl content. You can see the stretch factor of it. We've got this commercial upholstery material. And then last but not least, we've got this U.S. Army grade canvas. So you can type in the chat if you, I mean, we can wrap it up right now if you'd like. We've been running 2 hours and 30 minutes, but I'll spend as much time as you guys are willing to hang in there and for us to get it done. Looks like Emma is saying Army grade. Susie as well from Minnesota is saying Army grade. And I don't see any other input. If there's anyone else that wants to give input, maybe what we'll do, we don't have to do all of these. We could certainly do like 1 more sew off, 2 more sew offs. We've done a lot of leather already, obviously, but I'm not opposed if someone says, I really want to see that protected full grain leather, I'll by all means sew it. I don't have a problem with that. We'll do the 2 layers and put this 66-1 through the test again. But right now we'll do the Army grade. If there's any other input, let me know. I love your involvement. Love for you to give input on what you want to see. And we'll do the 2 layers of this Army grade. And again, this is not a real big challenge for this 66-1. I'm going to be folding it in half and doing just 2 layers. We could just as easily do, if I had it set up, we could do probably 4 to 6 layers of this U.S. Army grade canvas very easily on this machine. I might want to freshen up the needle before I tried it, but the 2 layers I don't think we'll have any issues with. Let me get this into place. I'll probably use the clips just to give me a little bit of an edge, hopefully. We'll use Paula's clips again on this. And again, if you're not aware of it, most of you are aware of it, but we are right on the fringe of declaring our next major milestone, which means we're going to be hitting. Am I in the shot? I think I am. We're going to be hitting 13,000 subscribers. Now, in the scheme of YouTube, 13,000 subscribers is not a crazy number. I mean, there's YouTube channels that have millions, tens of millions of viewers, but we're dealing with a niche space of vintage sewing machines. We're dealing with vintage sewing machines, almost an era gone by where a lot of people today, unlike back in the day where everyone was sewing, there was a sewing machine in every household. Our world is changing a lot, isn't it? So the fact that we have 13,000 on average every month, we have anywhere from, and I've shown you the stats. I'm not just making this up. I've shown you the stats before on this channel. Anywhere from 28,000 people visit this channel and watch videos every month. Sometimes as much as 80,000 a month. Every 28 days is how YouTube does it. So we have a lot of people that come to this channel, but not all of them click subscribe. So if you're one of those watching right now, either during the live stream or afterwards, and you've never clicked subscribe, would you please consider doing that? By doing that, you're going to get notifications about live streams like this. You're going to be eligible for contests like the one that I have coming up, where I'm going to be giving away a fully restored featherweight. If you're not a subscriber, you're not eligible. And we'll check that too. So don't try to sneak by. But, you know, it's exciting to reach those milestones because it shows that there are still folks out there across the globe that share our passion and love of vintage sewing machines. That's the good stuff. That's the very good stuff. And they also love beautiful things too. They love beautiful things. And they look at, well, I've never been a sewist. I've never sewn in my life, but holy mackerel, that is beautiful. I'd love to have that in my business, or I'd like to have that in the foyer of my house. Yeah, I would. Wow. So also our channel has the opportunity to get people excited about the beauty of vintage sewing machines as well. That's kind of fun. Yeah. All right. So let's do this. Let's do some U.S. Army grade canvas now. We're going to do 2 layers of it. Again, not a mighty feat for this machine, but it's still a challenge, especially with a needle that's gotten a big workout already. All right, let's give this a go. And then if you guys want to wrap it up, just type in the live chat, hey, let's wrap it up. I'm glad to do that. If you say, no, we got to finish those other sew-offs, dude. We got to finish those. Then we'll finish them. It's up to you guys. You guys are in charge. Okay? Gosh, compared to some of the other things I've already done sew-offs on, this is super easy. It's almost ridiculously easy. I better be quiet before I jinx us, huh? That needle will say, I'm done. I'm done. Time to skip stitches. Not yet. You're a Schmetz needle. Stick in there, buddy. Stick in there. Army strong. Army strong. We're sewing U.S. Army grade canvas right now. Be strong. This piece is really long. My finger's getting tired. Let me give you guys a pre-glimpse. These stitches are amazing. Look at those stitches. Holy mackerel. Wow. Wow. Almost there. Almost there. I'm going to have a callus on my finger. Oh, my goodness. I'll take these little clips off. And you know what? That's a real good balance. I'm seeing a little bit weaker lock stitch, which means I did bump this. I did bump this back up, but I may not have accommodated the canvas response. Again, materials will have different effects on your tension to some limited degree. To some degree. And again, I'm really hypercritical about stitches, but I think you have to be, don't you? Let's not accept mediocrity. Let's always make it better. All right, so let me grab this. Let me grab our stitch off holder thingy. We'll get our U.S. Army grade canvas on top of that. We'll look at the top stitch first, like we always do, and then we'll look at the lock stitch. And again, I'm already knowing that we need to make, if we're going to be sewing a ton of this, we would want to make a subtle adjustment to make that lock stitch a little more poppy. So this again is U.S. Army grade canvas. This stuff actually came from a shelter half. A shelter half is like a small little tent covering that soldiers use when they're out in the field to try to stay dry and warm. Folks, that is a solid page 34. I'll even say it. I didn't say it during this live stream, but above a page 34 is a page 34 plus. I would give this a page 34 plus. This top stitch for this U.S. Army grade canvas, 2 layers of it. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. Absolutely gorgeous. Wow. Now here's where I'm gonna, set the reality, set the stage. This is absolutely page 34 plus. I'm not gonna give the page 34 plus to the lock stitch because I think it could be much improved. It's not bad, it's not horrible, but it's not nearly as good. It needs more of that upper tension pulling up to define that stitch. Right now it's underdefined. I would give it a provisional page 34, but not a solid page 34 for sure. It could definitely be better. And if you ever see a stitch where it looks like it's tilted a little bit, it doesn't look straight and true. That's not a fault of the machine. That's a fault of the tension. Some of these stitches you'll see, and no, I never sew completely straight, but some of these stitches are going to have a slight little tilt to them. That's because there's not enough upper tension to pull them straight. All in all, not a bad lock stitch, but definitely could be better. Definitely could be better. And that's what we're all about on this channel is the Kanai principle. Actually, a principle I learned when I worked with Pepsi back in the day. Does anyone know what Kanai stands for? Yeah, that's not a page 34. It's a provisional page 34. Once we would make a tension adjustment to give that better definition. Right now, it doesn't have enough tension. The stitch is not at the level that we want it. It could definitely be better. Definitely could be better. But that's not the fault of this beautiful 1922 66-1. That's a tension factor. That's a tension factor. So far on this live stream, I'll just show you all real quick. So far, this is our sew-off sandwich. It should actually be thicker. It should have 2 layers of saddle grade leather, which Chris, the owner, has in his pocket right now. But we have the single layer saddle grade leather. We've got the snake skin. We've got the almost like a silk satin type material. We've got the genuine elk hide. We've got the 2 layers of compressed felt. We've got the 6 layers of genuine heavy grade denim, blah, blah. We've got the acrylic fiber. And then we just have the canvas, U.S. Army grade canvas that we just sewed. So make this a little bit thicker in your mind because we also had those 2 layers of saddle grade leather. This is our sew-off sandwich so far, which most people, even my competitors, even the cynics and the skeptics of what I do would look at that and go, holy Jiminy Crickets, that is proving that this 66-1 is ready. But if you want me to go a little bit further, you say the word. We still have protected full grain leather. We still have bubblegum material. We still have commercial upholstery material. So type in the live chat, stop or go. Stop or go. And I will go or stop. Yep. Oh, Christine is interested in a featherweight. Now there's 2 different weights, and most of you know this. There is the featherweight 221-221-1, which is the standard featherweight that has the tilt bed. And then there's also the featherweight convertible, which you can pull off that extension tilt bed and it becomes a free arm. Guess what, Christine? I'm going to whisper it so no one else can hear it but you. I have both available that I could restore for you. I have a featherweight convertible. I also have a featherweight standard machine. They're both incredible machines. But some people go, gosh, I would love to have a featherweight convertible. Featherweight convertibles, the 222Ks, are coveted, and they're actually called the Queen of Singers. The Queen of Singers. A regular featherweight, I started this, it's called the Princess of Singers. The featherweight convertible, the 222K, is called the Queen of Singers. Some people want the Queen, some people want the Princess. And there is a price difference between the two for sure. But if Christine or anyone else is interested in a fully restored featherweight that has gotten the magical touch of the workshop and comes with a lifetime warranty, I have the featherweight standard model, and I have the featherweight convertible, the Princess of Singers, the Queen of Singers. I only have one of each. I have one in reserve for Sunny, and then I have another one, maybe two. I'm trying to remember standard featherweights, but I definitely only have one. I definitely have only one 222K that I could offer for restoration to a customer. The other one that I had is already pre-sold to a customer down in Georgia. So, all right, that's my shameless plug. That's my shameless plug. So let me see. Yeah, constant and never-ending improvement. Susie had typed that. I didn't acknowledge that. Exactly. That's what Kanai is. And that's where someone can look at my work and go, Scott, you are the best in the world when it comes to restorative work. I've had a number of people say that to me. Even some people that do work in my field have said, you're the best, man. I always say thank you, but I'm not. I'm going to be better tomorrow. By the way, I'm going to be better next week. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be better next month, because I constantly try to improve my restorative processes, whether it's what I do in the paint shop, like for Chris's machine, where original paint, original decals, but brand new clear coating has just returned the luster and beauty of this. And it actually caused Chris to almost tear up. You heard him in his own words saying, I'm going to start crying because the greatness of this machine has been restored. The greatness of this machine. That's what makes this channel so much fun, is to see that transformation, isn't it? It really is. To see a machine go from mediocrity to majesty, to see a machine go from being beastly looking to being beautiful again. It's like a makeover for machines. I guess that's what I do, isn't it? Yeah, I do makeovers. Not for any of you. You come to the workshop, I don't know a thing about eyeliners or any of that stuff. Don't even come here and expect to be beautiful because of me. There's professionals that know how to do that. To people. I do it to machines, not to people. Oh goodness. So, at any rate, what should we wrap it up? Is a 6616 the same as this machine? In core structure, Big Joker, yes. The 6616 is going to be very much like this machine, but the setup of it's going to be different. I'll actually show you my little sheet here. So the big difference, and yes, I have a lot of this memorized, but I love to have this as a reference so I don't get it wrong. You know what I mean? I don't want to get it wrong and put out misinformation. So I use this as an aid as I'm looking at it. So I go, oh yeah. I haven't looked at it in a while. I want to get it right. So to Big Joker's question, 6616, way down here on the end of the food chain for the Class 66 models, it was actually the third from the bottom before they finally ended the class series right around 1935, 34 with the 6624. The big difference with the 6616 is it's going to have a back rear-mounted motor, and instead of having a beautiful spoked wheel, I think the spoke wheels are really cool. Instead of having that spoked wheel, it's going to have a solid wheel. In other words, it's not going to be that big spoke wheel I've been turning by hand today. It's going to be a little small one, similar to like you would see on, trying to think of a model that would really stand out to you. Yeah, the predecessor to the 201-2, the 100 series machines that would have been made prior to the 201-2 have kind of a meaty, but it's a solid wheel. It's not a spoke wheel. So that's really going to be the big difference between Chris's model, his 66-1 right at the top, and the 6616. That's going to have that smaller, much smaller, solid balance wheel. Also, it's going to have a different stitch length controller. Obviously, it's going to have a lever versus the little circular one that we've been adjusting today at different times. through this. So hopefully that answers the question for Big Joker. I hope it does. All right. So what are we going to do, you guys? Are we going to end the live stream? I'm cool with that. We're going on, believe it or not, because our time together goes so. So Susie is saying, let's wrap it up. So let's do that. Let's wrap it up. I might, as you are signing off and going on with your day, because we've gone almost 3 hours, you guys. Crazy, isn't it? Our time passes so quick together. I might do some additional sew-offs. You don't have to stay for them. Someone later that watches this as a video instead of as a live stream, they might be able to see some of these other sew-offs that I do. Or you might be able to circle back and see them later. But let's wrap it up at this point. I want to thank Chris again for the honor and privilege of being able to take his grandmother's machine and make it great again. I mean, even machines that don't have this look of majesty as an heirloom piece. And again, if you haven't looked at the photos, you can circle back and look at the description and see how this machine looked before. Again, it's going to have the same decal presence, but when I go through my paint restorative process and give it that new clear coat, this has about 7 layers on the bed, and it has about 4 to 5 layers on the upper part of the arm and the pillar. I thought that this machine might have use in Chris's home, so I went heavier on the bed. That's why it has that depth of beauty that you can kind of see there. But reach out if you want to allow me to take on a project like this. I'll treat it with the greatest care and leave you with a machine that really becomes a legacy piece for your family. Yeah, I didn't even show the back of the machine. So again, yeah, to Big Joker's question, that dash 16 is going to have a very small circular balance wheel compared to this big spoked wheel. Yeah. Yeah, quite lovely, isn't it? And again, this machine is turning 100 years old. 100 years old on Monday. So again, if you got a candle in the house, light a candle on Monday to celebrate 100 years for Chris's 66-1. Would you? All right, I'm going to wipe off the bed. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for being a part of the Cow Country family. Thank you so much for your encouragement by taking time out of your very busy days, very, very, very busy days, and being a part of this, so we can celebrate together. A machine that, could have ended up at a rummage sale, could have ended up at an estate sale, apart from Chris being there as the gatekeeper and saying, no, 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 no. I remember watching Grandma on the farm sew with this machine. I remember watching Mom sew with this machine. And that is the big deal when it comes to machines that are part of the legacy of that family, isn't it? I mean, otherwise it's just a sewing machine. So anyway, whenever you need to step away, please step away. Enjoy the rest of your week. Already we're heading into, you can tell I've been busy. Today is Wednesday, October 26th. So have a great rest of your week. Hope your rest of your Wednesday is great. I hope your Thursday is even better. I hope your Friday is fabulous. I hope you have a fabulous Friday. And I'm going to be doing another live stream on Saturday. I'll just give you a preview. It's my plan anyway. My plan anyway is on Saturday to present this machine to you on the other workbench. It's not, I'm out of cord. That's as close as I can get. My cord won't go any further. This is a FOF 1222. A FOF 1222. This is a very, very underused and misunderstood machine. And on Saturday, when I present it, you'll find out why. It's very misunderstood. It's very underutilized because people don't understand it. And I'm going to hope to share some of my knowledge on this machine on Saturday so that people that have the machine go, holy Jiminy Crickets, holy mustard seed. I had no idea that machine was capable of doing that. I had no idea. So I'm going to reveal some of those secrets to you on Monday with that 1222. Really a cool machine. Really quite cool. All right. Take care, everybody. God bless. And Again, whenever you need to sign off, sign off. I'm going to goof around on the machine a little bit more. Maybe I'll sew that protected full grain leather. Maybe I'll kind of mess around with the bubblegum material. So if you want to hang around for that, hang around. Otherwise, the live stream is officially ended now. Don't feel ashamed or reluctant to step away if you have to, okay? All right, take care, everybody. Yeah. All right. I think I'll do this bubblegum material. Maybe I'll even stitch it faster, huh? Wouldn't that be fun? Holy mackerel, I'm getting some momentum now. Must feel like I want to crank some music on. All right, that's our bubblegum material. Some lovely, lovely stitching if you're able to see that in the shot. It's our top stitch. Again, this has a lot of vinyl in it, so it's a real tricky material to work with. Really quite tricky. If you've seen me stretch this stuff, that's why I call it bubblegum material, quite honestly. Yeah, lovely lock stitch too. We had really good balance on this one with that tension factor. That's our lock stitch right there. And our top stitch as well. Again, if you want to sample this, I'll send it to you. You can give it a try on your machine, see how your machine manages it. Yeah. I love that stitch. Page 34 plus, folks. Page 34 plus. All right. I'm going to go through these real rapidly. Some of you are so loyal that you're like, oh gosh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, but I don't want to miss the end of this. You know, if you have to step away, don't be afraid to step away. You can always circle back and watch it later. But I appreciate your loyalty. I really do. So this bubblegum is going to go to the back. Bubblegum material. Let's do some of this commercial upholstery material. I might as well just wind up and we'll do this leather last. We'll do this commercial upholstery material. I'm only going to do 2 layers of it. Not really a big challenge for this machine. We'll just kind of buzz down it for fun. And again, I'm turning this, if you can watch, turning it with my finger. It gives you an idea of how smooth and silky easy this machine is moving now after the workshop magic. And that's where you can buy a 66-1 on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Etsy or any of the other places, but it's not going to run like one of these machines that's come out of the workshop. It just isn't. So again, if you're happy with mediocrity, then buy a machine on eBay and, you know, kind of like I showed you that stitch line comparison, except that is your page 34, but it's not even going to be close to what a machine can do when it leaves the workshop here. That's lovely too, isn't it? That's our commercial upholstery material. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Lock stitch, no difference, equally lovely. Beautiful stitching. And again, this needle has gotten a heck of a workout, but it's not giving up on us. It just sewed 2 layers of commercial upholstery material. How many layers of this could I sew, even turning it with my finger like you just saw me doing? I could do 6 to 8 layers of this. I could. I might want to freshen the needle up first, but I could turn it with my finger doing 6 to 8 layers of this commercial upholstery material. That's how capable this machine is now. It's not just beautiful. It is a workhorse. So already, these are the sew-off sandwiches, plus add those 2 layers of saddle grade leather that Chris has in his pocket. This is the real deal, folks. If you go on other channels, they do one little simple sew-off and they consider the machine ready and capable and graduated from their little workshop. Don't buy that junk. This is the real deal. This is how you put a machine through the sewing Olympics, how you really put that machine to the test, not sewing one material and considering one and done, doing a field of materials like this and putting that machine to a capable test so that you can really feel like that machine is ready to graduate. This machine is ready to graduate. We're just going to do one more sew off with this protected full grain leather, and then we're done. Then we're done. And again, if you need to step away, please. I totally understand. I totally understand. But I'm going to show you what we're going to sew now. And this is after doing all the other sew-offs. This is at the very end. We're going to be going through protected full grain leather of this thickness. Once the camera says it's ready. Come on, camera. You've done such a good job. You're such a good friend. Show our friends how thick that is. There we go. Thank you. Folks, 2 layers of protected full grain leather is thicker than a man or a woman's heavy belt. Look at that yourself. I'll pinch it together too. It's about 8 ounces of leather with a needle that's already gone through a sewing Olympics. This will be our final sew-off, and I'm using probably the most difficult sew-off until the very end because I have that much confidence in Schmet's needles and I have that much confidence in Chris's machine from 1922. Again, celebrating a centennial birthday this coming Monday. Light a candle on Monday, please. All right, our final sew-off. Those of you that stuck it out, give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a gold star. And I thank you so much for your support and your encouragement. I thank you so much. Oh, and also hello to T. Moser. T. Moser. I didn't say hello to that person yet. T. Moser. Oh, how can you reach out to me? That's easy. I'll actually reach across to the laptop and type in my, or you know what? If one of the leaders would be willing to do that, would you type in my cell phone number? Type in my cell phone number in the live chat, please. If Emma or Paula or anyone else that knows my cell phone number, pretty much everyone in the world. I get calls in the middle of the night from South Africa and Australia. Oh, you sleeping? Didn't know you were sleeping. Well, it's 2:00 in the morning, my friend. Yeah, I am. I was sleeping, not anymore. But if someone wants to type in my cell phone number, that would be awesome. Or you know what I can do? I can reach up and grab a business card and show you on the screen. Where is it? There it is. So you can see my cell phone number is 920-454-0393. Thank you, Emma. Thank you for typing it there as well. That's awesome. So that's my cell phone number. You can text me. You can call me there if you'd like. You can write me a letter. People don't write letters anymore, do they? Not very often. But there's my address in Oconto, Wisconsin. And then you also have my email address as well on the bottom there. So by all means, reach out. I love, even if it doesn't lead to us doing a project together, I love meeting folks voice to voice after they've been part of a live stream saying, you know what, and I'm not making this up. Scott, I love your work. I love the way you present. I love how much fun you bring into things. I love your excitement. I love your passion. That's such an encouragement to me to hear that from someone. So if you want to reach out for whatever reason, this is how you can contact me. Yeah, there we go. All right. And thank you to Emma as well for typing that into the live chat too. All right, final sew off again. If you need to step away, I totally understand. But I'm going to do this final sew off. That way we've done the entire stack of sew offs. And Chris can watch this later. Chris had to do a call and he can celebrate this great event of this machine that belonged to his grandmother. Then his mom used it as well. It's been in the family forever. It was a Christmas. You heard him say it. If you joined late, you probably didn't hear him say it. But Chris shared with us that even before his grandmother and grandfather became husband and wife. This machine behind me, this 1922 Singer 66-1, his grandfather gave it to his future grandmother. His future grandfather gave it to his, I have no idea how to say that. At any rate, they weren't even married. And his grandfather gave this as a gift to his future bride. That's how cool the history of this machine is. That's how cool it is. All right. All right, final sew off, 2 layers of protected full grain leather. And again, if you need to step away, I totally understand. All right, Schmetz needle, don't give up on us now. Don't give up on us now. You've done such a brilliant job. And I didn't even tell you guys, I apologize. I apologize. The Schmetz needle I'm using today, I did not show it to you. I did not show you what type it is. Shame on me. Shame on me. I did not show it to you. This is the Schmetz needle that I'm using today. It's a leather needle. So it gives us, that's part of the reason at the very beginning of this. Where is it? It's somewhere over here. Maybe I gave it to Chris. What did I do with it? At any rate, I showed you the comparison of the quality of stitching for sewing leather, and I showed you that. Remember, I showed you at the very beginning. It was 2 stitch columns on one side with a universal needle, and then 2 stitch columns on the other side with a leather needle. That's the leather needle that I have in today. So if you want to put it into use on one of your sewing machines, you can use this type of needle pretty much on any sewing machine that might be vintage. It doesn't have to be a 66-1. It could be a Pfaff. It could be an Elna. It could be a Husqvarna. It could be a Kenmore. It could be a Japanese clone machine. It really doesn't matter. You're able to put a machine needle like this in. Now, the only trade-off is it's going to help you. It's going to give you an edge when you're sewing leather, but it's also going to put you at a little bit of a deficit when it comes to sewing some of the other materials, because a leather needle has a different design. The cutting edge is different. The point is different. The scarf is different. The shaft is different. Even the placement of the eye of the needle is going to be a little bit different. So it's going to give you a great edge when you're sewing materials like this protected full grain leather. But when you're sewing the compressed felt, when you're sewing other materials like that, it might take some of the beauty of that stitch away, just so you know. So there's always a trade-off. That's why they came up with a universal needle, so you would have a needle that would be able to serve a wider scope of material choices. So I feel bad I didn't share that with you. Shame on me. Shame on me. All right, let's do this final sew off. Hopefully that needle holds out. Here we go. And let me widen this shot so we'll look at the stitching, obviously, but then you can turning it with my finger at the same time for fun. All right, here we go. Oh my goodness, that's thick. I am hitting that right now like a wall. Goodness gravy. Folks, I'm not making it up. That is hard to turn right now. 2 layers of protected full grain leather is really, really putting this tired needle and my tired finger to the test. Goody gumdrops. Show mackerel. All right, hold on a second. Oh, wow. What a great sew off to end with. Hopefully our needle holds out and it doesn't skip any stitches. That's my biggest fear going through almost 8 ounces of protected full grain leather. Are we going to skip any stitches with this very, very tired 9014 leather needle by Schmetz? I hope we don't. We're going to stop right there. Oh, I love Schmetz. I'm sorry. If you love Organ needles or some other brand, God bless you. But I love Schmetz needles. The sewing that this needle has done, the degree, the severity, and yet even on this last sew off, going through 2 layers of protected full grain leather. Let me get real close here, give you a pre-glimpse. It didn't miss a beat. It did not miss a beat. Absolutely. Page 34 plus stitching. Page 34 plus stitch. I haven't even cut the thread yet. I'm so excited. Look at that. And that's a product of my work on the machine. That's why I can turn this machine through 2 layers of protected full grain leather, saddle grade leather, everything else. I can turn it by my finger. I'm turning it. You saw me. I showed you. I turned that large spoked balance wheel with my finger and went through 2 layers of protected full grain leather after doing all the other sew-offs that you witnessed on this live stream. And again, look at the thickness of what we just went through. That's our top stitch. Here's our lock stitch. I got to give myself a little bit more thread to pull here. That's our lock stitch right there. There's no difference. It's an absolutely drop dead gorgeous lock stitch. It's an absolutely gorgeous top stitch. Actually, we had a little bit of that's because I don't have the best thread, but we had almost a thread failure right there because this needle is getting so tired. But it made it all the way through. It's amazing. It made it all the way through. Look at that. So, lesson learned. Number 1, buy vintage, and preferably get a vintage sewing machine run through the workshop so you can enjoy that machine to its fullness. Don't accept mediocrity. Don't say, well, it's good enough. Give that machine a chance for greatness. All machines deserve greatness. I say that all the time. This is greatness right here after all of that. Let's clip the thread and I'll show you the sew-off sandwich. And again, I just got a piece of metal on my finger. Ouch. Imagine the sew-off sandwich that I'm about to show you even a little bit thicker with those 2 layers of saddle grade leather that Chris has in his pocket right now. Beautiful stitching. This is our sew-off sandwich on this live stream today. Got to gather it up here. It's big enough. I really do have a piece of metal on my finger. I can actually see it. I picked it up off of the workbench. Ouch. It's still there. Ouch. You see that? I don't know if the camera's going to be able to focus on it. That was a piece of metal in my thumb right there. Oh, it's actually on this finger right here. Sorry. The hazards of the workshop. You come here and visit at your own risk. So here's what we did on this live stream today. I'm just going to show you real quick. And again, if you have to step away, it's totally fine. I totally get it. We just did this last sew off right here. 2 layers of protected full grain leather with a needle that is about exhausted. It's about exhausted. And we did, look at the stitching. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness gravy. Page 34 plus, without a doubt. Saddle grade leather. Oh, here's the one I was looking for. I thought I lost it. Here's what I was looking for, showing you the comparison between using a universal needle on the left and using a leather needle on the right. You can kind of see the stitch differences there. That's what I was looking for. Yay. I thought I lost it. Like, where would I lose it? But I almost thought I lost it. So we did that one as well. We did U.S. Army grade canvas, commercial upholstery material, bubblegum material as well, acrylic fiber, 6 layers of heavy grade denim, 2 layers of compressed felt. And that was the fun one where I showed you where we made that adjustment and we went from a stitch of mediocrity down here, this top stitch. We made that little adjustment and then all of a sudden it came to life beautifully, didn't it? Isn't that fun to fix things? Isn't it fun to know how to fix things? Yeah, it is. We did this genuine elk hide, crazy thickness there as well. Crazy. I turned it with my finger. Gosh, I've got like superpowers in my finger. What is your superpower, Scott? It's my finger. It is. We did this real light sew off, this satin silk stuff for Christmas holidays. And we did this snake skin as well. We also stitched that. If you missed it, you can rewind and watch it. So this machine deserves, in my opinion, if you agree, I hope you agree, this machine that's turning 100 years old on Monday deserves to graduate after going through this ordeal. And again, make it a little bit thicker because Chris has the 2 thicknesses of saddle grade leather in his pocket. So it's even thicker than this. The Sew Off Olympics that we did today on this live stream. That is cool. And that's the difference. That's the cow country difference, where others will do one sew off and they'll consider one and done. This is what we do to put a vintage sewing machine to the test so it can graduate from the workshop. Yeah, there you go. We're done. So all of you that hung in there, give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself 2 gold stars. And again, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for your encouragement. Thank you so much for being a part of our Cow Country Vintage Sewing Machine family. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate the leaders as well that are there to be there as a support, to be there as a resource to you when I'm busy over here doing this stuff, and also to deal with, if you weren't here near the beginning of the live stream, I have this set up to do chat replay, which means when someone watches this live stream later as a video, they're going to be able to see all of these comments that all of you typed during this live stream over here. They're going to be able to see everything in real time as that video is playing. And they're going to be able to see at the beginning of this live stream, there was some knucklehead pushing sexual stuff. I'm not making that up. They were pushing sexual stuff. And the moderating team, Paula was here then, Emma was here. I think that's it. I think that's the only moderators I had, but thank goodness for them, because they right away went after this person, and they have the authority to delete their statement. They have the authority to throw them into a 200-second timeout? I think so. They can throw them into a timeout. They can really lower the hammer on them when someone is doing something totally inappropriate on this channel. This is a family-friendly channel, and there's no room for that type of junk being thrown in the middle of one of our live streams. So thank you to Paula. Thank you to Emma. And, I wouldn't be able to manage that and do all this over here at the same time. So anyway, this is Chris's legacy machine. I'm going to lift it up very carefully, rotate it a little bit. So this will be the final thing you see at the end of this live stream. Oh, along with the sew-offs we did too, blah, blah, blah. Put that there as well. Just down a little bit. I'll put them here. There we go. I feel horrible covering the beautiful. Let me move it way over here. There we go. All right, take care, everybody. God bless. I'll put on a little bit of music. And again, I hope this new microphone setup is working a little bit better for us. I hope you've been able to hear me clearly the entire live. I'm going to put on a little bit of music now. I won't be talking, but let me know if you can hear the music. That would be kind of cool too. All right, hope to see you Saturday if you can make it. Saturday, I'm going to be showing that FOF 1222. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Susie. Thanks, Susie, for the feedback. I'm glad the audio is working better. Oh, that'll work. That's a good idea. Put it on top of my harmonica box. Oh, it's my pleasure. We learn from each other, guys. We learn from each other. Never forget that. And again, if you're ever in a forum on Facebook or other venues, and the person that's presenting, you either while you're there or you step away and you feel like, wow, I really feel dumb. I feel like I wasn't valued. I feel like I didn't have a voice. Don't spend any time in those places. Join us here in the classroom. You've got a voice. You can be a fellow teacher. And we get better because of it, don't we? Yeah, we do. Oh, yeah, I'll move you over there. I apologize. I forgot about you. I didn't mean to forget about you. Our Mountie was so proud of having this little banner thing for our premiere live stream thingy. He's like, can I get into the shot? Can I be a part of this? I mean, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, take care, everybody. I'm going to drink some Diet Coke. I'll let you chat for a little bit, and then I'll end this live stream and play a little bit more music, maybe. Yeah, let me do that. A little bit more music. I should check on Hank, too. Hank is real quiet. Hopefully he's not getting into trouble. I don't think he is. Hopefully not. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream now. I'm sorry I was away a little bit longer. Hank needed my attention, so I had to take care of him. But y'all take care. Hopefully to see you on Saturday morning. So I'll end the live stream now. The chat will stay active for a little bit if you're in the middle of talking with somebody or getting to forge a new friendship. Go ahead and feel free to do that. But it does time out after a little while. So take care, everybody. God bless. Bye.